The first one, if the council pulls a consent item for discussion, will it be opened to the public for comments? That's the first question. Item number 2, we as residents of the city of Palm Bay are governed by the Code of Ordinances, yet you can change an ordinance under consent without the citizens' input. Somewhat hypocritical of a government of the people. You can make changes without the citizens' input. Item number 3. On the new orange cards that you have, there's a statement that states, no action shall be taken on requests until a later meeting unless city council declares no matter to be of an emergency nature. So that means you won't even be able to discuss it for 2 weeks after we talk about it. Item number 4. I would have had more to say on the second public comments section on the old agenda, but you took that privilege away from the residents of Palm Bay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, would you like to respond to?
Sure. As you remember, Mayor, at the last council meeting, the council elected to change its rules of procedure in an effort to try to have the meetings in before 11 or 12 at night. And there were some things that were done to provide the public with advanced knowledge of items that could be on the agenda, so that if it wasn't on the agenda 48 hours before the printed agenda, you could talk about it, but you couldn't take action on it until a subsequent meeting. So I think that's beneficial to the citizenry to know what's on your public agenda. And the other items, the consent process and the public comments at the end of the meeting were simply to try to help expedite the meeting in a more business-like way.
More specifically, he asked about if council pulled an item, is the citizenry allowed to come in and speak at that time?
Yeah, I think that would be up to the council. I think the intention, if I could speak for what I heard as the majority, is that the opportunity to do that from the public would be during this public comment period. So for example, if a public member wanted to speak on a specific consent item, they would have that opportunity before you would consider it. So you would hear their comments before you would take up the item. So I think you wouldn't be required to under your new rules of procedure. If you chose to, I don't know that the rules would prohibit you from doing that, but I think the intention was to try to get all those comments at the beginning of the meeting so you could consider them at that time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Next speaker.
Lance Fisher. Good evening, Lance Fisher, 130 Malibu Road, Deputy Chief, Palm Bay Police Department, retired. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that everyone had a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I'm just going to summarize mine real quick. On December 23rd, I received a phone call 2 days before Christmas that my long-term disability had been denied. As you all may or may not know, on February 24th of 2024, I was diagnosed with PTSD from job-related incidents and terminated on September 2nd based on my diagnosis without the opportunity to receive any treatment from a workman's comp doctor. So after 20 years of dedicated service to the PD in this city, this is what I have to show for it. No job, no income, forced to sell my home of 19 years, short-term disability denied, long-term disability denied, and the city continues to fight for my workman's comp benefits, or fight against my workman's comp benefits. This is the first year since 1994 in the Marine Corps that I was not able to provide for my family during the holidays. The denial paperwork included this statement: our review failed to find support for a condition or combination of conditions which would result in your ability to perform the duties of your own occupation. Mayor, I've taken your guidance that you provided to me on September 6th email and obtained an attorney with the intention of being reinstated as a position of deputy chief. With my medical leave of absence was denied, I sent an email requesting it to be reconsidered so that I could complete the treatment that I had begun. The city received paperwork indicating that I would return to work on November the 1st. I received an email from former city manager Suzanne Sherman, who indicated that any additional medical leave of absence extension would be a hardship. She later clarified that statement at the dais in an open council meeting when she indicated that that was based on my position as a deputy chief. Ironically, a week after I was separated, Deputy Chief Jeff Spears was promoted to that position, and then the following week was sent away to the agency until mid-December. The city cannot take a position that one deputy chief being out until November 1st would create such a hardship and then place the new deputy chief out until December. It just doesn't make sense. Mayor, I haven't had a chance to acknowledge your statements to me as a citizen as I stand up at this podium. At the November 27th meeting, I stood before the council to give my opinion on what type of city manager I hope this council would hire. Sir, your comments to me as a citizen expressing my freedom of speech were unprofessional and unacceptable. You interrupted me 30 for 30 seconds, talking over me while I spoke. You raised your voice and saying, I'm telling you. Sir, you don't tell me anything. I have the right, like every other citizen that sits behind me that stands before this council is directed by that sign to my right that gives my opinion. I gave this city a chance on April 17th, April 18th, May 9th, and May 10th to handle my complaints against the chief sitting back there. Mayor, you indicated in the past council meeting that you do not see the culture that I'm speaking of. The fact is you made it apparent on November 27th that you're a part of this culture. The fact is you made it clear that you do not care about the past employees present. You don't care to hear about your concerned citizens. Seems a bit ironic that a man that's ran on the platform of transparency threatens, scolds, and spews hatred to those that have courage to speak truth. So I do not talk ill about the Palm Bay Police Department. I speak the truth about the leadership and the culture created by this chief. I love and miss the men and women of this agency since the day I was terminated. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Attorney, he posed the question regarding our workman's comp. Can you shed some light on that?
Sir, as I stated before, Mr. Fisher has and continues to receive medical treatment under workers' compensation. That has not changed. He received it before his medical separation. He continues to receive it now. We have never denied his ability to receive medical treatment.
Thank you. Well, that's a question you want to weigh in. Councilman Hammer has a question.
If he received, or if he's gone and got an attorney, are we even allowed to discuss it?
The medical treatment we've already established, and I've said that before, but as far as any additional items, no. We certainly, if there comes a time that council wants to inquire more, just as we will later on in the tort case, we can schedule an executive session.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Judy Trandle.
Good evening, Judy Trandle, 751 Pebble Beach Avenue, Northeast, Palm Bay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about a topic critical to our community's environmental and economic well-being, protecting our wetlands. Palm Bay is blessed with residents that like a low-key, quiet lifestyle. Our wetlands are among its most valuable treasures. These ecosystems may seem unassuming, but they are the backbone of our environment, providing irreplaceable services that benefit us all. First and foremost, wetlands act as nature's water filtration system. They trap pollutants, sediment, and excess nutrients before they enter our rivers, estuaries, and drinking water sources. In a region like ours, where clean water is vital for both people and wildlife, the health of our wetlands directly impacts our quality of life. Second, wetlands are nature's flood control. They absorb and store stormwater, reducing the risk of flooding in our neighborhoods. As we face frequent and severe weather events, this natural defense becomes even more essential. Without wetlands, we risk higher flood damages, costing taxpayers millions in recovery and repair. Third, our wetlands are biodiversity hotspots. They provide critical habitat for countless species, including wading birds, fish, and wildlife. Preserving these areas ensures that future generations can enjoy the unique wildlife that makes Palm Bay so special. Additionally, healthy ecosystems support industries like tourism and fishing, which are vital to our local community. But perhaps most importantly, protecting our wetlands is an investment in our future. Once destroyed, wetlands are difficult and costly to restore, and their loss is irreversible. Look what has happened to our Everglades. They've destroyed our Everglades in the name of development. By implementing policies now to conserve these areas, such as planning and zoning, sustainable development practices, and economic development, all working together, we can strike a balance between growth and preservation. Palm Bay has 25,664 vacant single-family lots that are already platted. They also have 464
Thank you, ma'am.
multifamily.
Thank you.
I urge you,
Ma'am,
yes.
thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please save our wetlands.
Next speaker is James Monaco.
I'm James Monaco, 811 Chickasaw Avenue, Melbourne, Florida. Here on behalf of building a BMX facility here, a facility that would bring all kinds of, would help with our business, local business, tourism, bringing tourism dollars in. As we're getting ready to have a big event down in Okeechobee. We have a state qualifier down there. Following week, we have a national. For that week, or for the month of July alone, for them, that'll be like a $3 million income for them of tourism. I mean, it could be more. It just depends on they're expecting and we're expecting to just be extremely busy. A lot of racers, people from all over the world will be there because it's also being a national. We get a lot of people from South America, a lot of folks from Canada, as well as we get a lot of folks that come from across the pond. So if we can have something yet here, I mean, that could be an event we would be having here. So if we got something like that, a national every other year, on a yearly basis, it would be bringing us a couple $1 million a year. Pulling in a national, that would pull us in anywhere from $3 to $5 million a year of tourism. To jump off of like Winter Haven, Florida, they were the home of the Red Sox. Sydney didn't want to work with them. So Cleveland Indians came in. City didn't want to work with them. Let's just bulldoze that stadium under and we'll get rid of it and we'll build condos on the river. And they did. Then they ran into all kinds of other legal problems. Well, those baseball fields brought in baseball players that made 7 and 8 figures. All that tourism was gone. All those nice fancy restaurants gone. Why? Because the residents, that money was gone. So, here the city, kept cut it down to build condos. Like here we have the opportunity. We've already got a lot for the track. We've already got property for parking. Now we just need your blessing to move on. The previous city manager had 2 years of paperwork, hard numbers, what it was going to cost to build, what was available, what we had, what we could do. So that's why, again, we want to sit down, with the board, with the city board, to what we can do and throw down some hard numbers and what's the possibility. We were dreaming, but yeah, you got to start with a dream. Walt Disney World did. I worked for him for over 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the name of that city that you're going to this weekend?
Okay, next weekend, the next 2 weekends.
Sir, please come. If he has a question, you have to stay on the podium and respond to the question?
That's it. I just want to know what the name of the city was so I can look.
Yeah, okay, Healy.
All right.
Down by West Palm.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker?
Next speaker, Chrissy Reed.
My name is Christy Reed, 811 Chickasaw Avenue, Melbourne, Florida. I am also here about the BMX track, and the city is Wellington. The track is right off of the Turnpike near 95. Last meeting we were here, the city manager made a gruff no when we were discussing the track. I have a question for him. If I asked you for a baseball field,
Ma'am, you just speak to me, please.
okay, if we were asking for a baseball field, would that be easier? You're looking at a cost of a baseball diamond at $1.1 million. We're looking at a facility for probably $3.5 million that will bring back in money, that's going to bring outsiders here. It's going to bring people. We went last night. We drove all the way to Daytona to race, and that's a local race. There were 120 people there that stopped, bought gas, ate meals. That adds up. We have the grapefruit trails here, which I'm not sure if any of you do dirt jumping or trails, but when they have a jam here, there are 1,500 to 2,000 riders that come into this community from all over the world to ride those trails. We have pros that fly in from all over Europe, and they're bringing in tourism dollars. They have followers that follow them, just as in BMX we do. We have Connor Fields, who is one of the #1 riders. We have Elise Willoughby, who her brother is actually a Florida resident, who would come here to race and bring in people. Excuse me. We have my grandchildren. The trophies they are holding are from their state series last year. We have over 2,000 riders in this state. My youngest grandson, his first year racing, was #9 in the state of Florida for 9-year-olds. He's #3 in the Southeast for 9-year-olds. My oldest grandson has been racing since he was 4 years old. That's his cruiser number. He races 2 bicycles. He's #2 in the Southeast on cruiser. We travel, BMX travels. We go where the races are. You bring a track here to us. You let us have that. We will bring the people. There are already more than 50 families that live in the South Brevard area that would be here.
Thank you. Thank you. And before you call the next speaker, I had shared with you at the last meeting. Have you reached out to the Tourist Development Council? Just a yes or no.
Yes, we have.
Okay. And what was their response?
They didn't give me one. I had to leave messages and I have not gotten responses.
Okay.
I've been doing this for 5 years, trying to get a track built in this area.
Okay.
So
My question is the Tourist Development Council, because I wholeheartedly agree with you. You're going to bring different people from throughout our state and even beyond. So there should be an opportunity for the Tourist Development Council to invest in this venture. So that's why I was hoping that you've already had some dialogue with them. I think it would be wise for you to speak specifically with Peter Krenz, who is the director at the TDC.
I will do that first thing Monday morning.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Eileen Sepp.
Eileen Sepp, 1230 Friel Road, Northeast. I've been watching these councils and boards for quite a while, and I started out with a lot of optimism, but lately I'm seeing, prior to the election, there was a lot more of a conciliatory attitude. when people speak. The 3 minutes is there for a guideline, but when I go to commission meetings, they at least let people finish a sentence or their thought. And to cut people off, I think, is a little bit rude. The thing is that where this council is more interested in limiting free speech and the opportunities we have to speak. I personally like speaking at the end because I would listen to what everyone else has had to say and maybe, you know, fill in what wasn't said. There's a lot of things you can do well, but the priority seems to be streamlining a job that you applied for. You knew what the requirements were, yet you want to eliminate a lot of things. Not being able to speak after reports are given doesn't give us any input. Case in point, when former Councilman Donnie Felix violated state statute 104.31 by demanding or asking the entire council to sanction Trump while he was a candidate. That is a state violation. Nobody said anything. We have lawyer didn't say you can't say that. Thankfully, the mayor just ignored his request, but we all were offended, or most of us were, and we didn't. If you're going to throw things out there, we need to be able to speak to them in the moment, and that's important. I would have preferred to see more action taken on things like when after the 2022 election, 70% of the people said no to an increase, and all of the councilmen at the time gave themselves a stipend except for the mayor. But you also gave yourself a month off. You limited the number of hours for the council meetings. It seems like there's more interested in reducing your responsibilities as public servants. And I realize that these are important jobs, but as a public servant, you take on the responsibility and the obligation to listen to the people. And I don't see that happening. When people came in here telling you how their homes were being decimated, the excuse was that lawyers said we can't do it. We did not hire lawyers. We hired you for your perspective and for your actions on our behalf. And I really hope that we can get this better and fix some of the things that were broken. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Kenneth Delgado.
Ken Delgado, 154 Angelo Road, Southeast, also the pastor of the house, Palm Bay. A couple of items. Number one, there's a new fire station being built on Palm Bay Road, which we're excited for. There are traffic lights there. I had mentioned months before the consideration of adding the traffic light out from Vista Oaks. We have the grocery store that's right there, Thrifty, a lot of traffic, U-turns going on, dangerous for people trying to cross roads. Some people are actually crossing the road when they're not allowed to. I don't know if anything was made towards adding an additional traffic light coming out of that area. Number two, garbage collection. We're thankful that there are garbage collections. Christmas came along, and obviously Christmas Day, no one wants to work, and they didn't. So thankful. And I was assuming they'd come pick up the garbage the next day. No, they were canceled, and they will resume next week. And which, okay, so I assumed no service remuneration for the day off. They're taking a day off. I get a day off. I found out, no, we pay for their day off and we don't get garbage collection. Just a cursory, let you know this is what happened. Number three, freedom of speech. You know, I'm a public servant as a pastor, and I know what comes with that demand as a pastor. And unfortunately, sometimes 2 in the morning, I've got to go do something, or 3 in the morning, or 4 in the morning, or 5. I just know that that's part of the deal. Also realize that I'd like to be home too. And yet it seems like we're cutting more and more the freedoms that we're supposed to have. We no longer have the freedom to elect the person who perhaps got off, removed, or something happened to them. We no longer can vote for that person. Now our freedom of speech after is being removed to try to reduce how much time well, listen, time, this is the position. Time is important. And those who are here at 12 are along with you. So if they're here at 12 at night, they're here with you. And so that freedom of speech, which is slowly being eroded by the previous council, seems to be now being eroded here. I really question the rationale of time. I know it's late. And if I'm here at 12 waiting for me to speak, I'm late too, and I'd like to go to bed too. Last and not least, if you see me leave, it's not because I'm upset at you. My three Aussie grandchildren are here. They leave on Monday, and I want to spend as much time with my little Aussie grandchildren while they are here in the United States. And so thank you for the thoughts, the question, still like the answer. Thank you.
Pat Dalbro.
Mr. Morgan, the thought of where Station 7 is being built is their traffic mass there currently. There used to be traffic lights at that location years ago, and then they were removed. So the thoughts that came up, the idea was because Thrifty's an active supermarket there, and people use that corridor, it would be wise for us to put up a traffic signal there sooner rather than later. And I think that's what the pastor was alluding to, that this came up before, and hopefully, do we have any progress in that direction, or
I'm unaware, being new, of that and whether that's gone out to a traffic engineer for analysis, but certainly can follow up on that in the coming week.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Next speaker, Pat Dalbro.
Good evening. Happy New Year. I do believe we've done quite a few good things last year, and I hope and pray that we can continue to do some good things this year. I've been coming to these meetings for 4.5 years, and we seem to be going around and around and around in the circle over roads, traffic, lights, police, fire, recreation. I was like, are we going to get answers? Are we going to move forward on these things? I see that Melbourne is redoing 192 and Mitten Road. What are we doing with Malabar Road, Heritage, and Babcock? We need to get the money. Where's the money coming from? And why is it going to take another 5 or 10 years to get Malabar Road widened? Also, I still see builders building houses up here while somebody is down here over here. I saw one house in this whole city that he actually built his house at the same level as his neighbors. So our builders, I really would like to see something done with that because it looks ridiculous. And as far as council, I want you to know, and other people have said it, we don't need to be worrying about cutting out boards. Those people are volunteers. There's no skin off your back about whether they're spending a whole lot of time just talking and coming up with ideas. Are you afraid of them or what? There is a song that came out back in the late 60s, early 70s. Now showing my age. It was sung by a young lady named Melody, and she was singing, and we've all heard it before. You don't know what you got till it's gone. Paved paradise, put up a parking lot. And I'm going to say, put up a storage unit, or put up a fast food place, or put up cheap businesses. I'm sorry, I'm not against the businesses, car wash, but we've talked about getting good, high quality businesses in this city. And when are we going to do that? Also, we brought up pickleball courts 6 months ago. Juliet, you told me 2 months ago that they were coming. I talked to Greg. He said he's ready to go on those. When are we going to get those done? If we can get a dog park put in, why can't we get pickleball courts put in? They want something for kids. We had more things for kids back in the 80s than we do now. So let's move forward. Thank you.
All right. So the very first thing I want to address is the pickleball courts, and then closely after that, the issue she brings up about the building, the housing of those lots. I guess it's still an elevation issue, but carry on, sir.
Yeah, with respect to the pickleball courts, my understanding is we have funds available for a master plan for Fred Poppy Park, and incorporated in that proposed master planning effort is a pickleball court area. But it's also part of a larger master plan for the park so that we could incorporate other elements into that park and some access directly from the parkway. So that is in process. We have not forgotten the request from citizens for new pickleball courts, and you'll see that as part of a master planning effort that's coming up.
Did you want to talk about the capitalism of businesses that choose to build here and invest in the city? Like the city doesn't get their pick. I'd love to have an Olive Garden. I'd love to have, like a great restaurants myself, but we don't have those investors coming in, and it's not because of negligence, because we're out there pursuing our economic development. Is written letters. We've written a few letters the mayor sent out as well. And then part of that other discussion she spoke about was 192. Is that the improvements on 192? I believe they're adding bicycle lanes.
Yes, they're within the existing curb to curb. It's a repaving project that's being done by the Florida Department of Transportation because US 192 is a state highway. The roads that are talked about in Palm Bay, we have some improvement designs underway for the parkway. We just completed what's called a PD&E for Malabar Road, and engineering is funded through state funding. So there are some important roadway projects. They're still a ways off. Don't want to indicate to the public that that's a near term, but that is something I know that the previous council and the current council are very interested in. And as staff, we're doing all we can to pursue those two roadways in particular in the nearest term possible.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Susan Connolly.
Susan Connolly, 3901 Dixie Highway Northeast. I want to speak on the consent agenda, item number 6, the Sierra software agreement. To me, this is surveillance without warrant, and this goes against the very values and principles I feel we the people government was built on. I would just like you to consider that when you vote today.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Robert Stice.
Robert Stice, 1796 Winbrook Drive, Southeast. In all the years of my management career, basically people say I'll follow up, but there's no follow through. I've been talking about Republic for months, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I still haven't heard anything. Why did they not pick up trash on Christmas Day, but picked up trash on New Year's Day? Why wasn't there batch phone calls sent out like they usually do if something's changed there? Why hasn't the public been informed? That's one of the things I want to talk about. I don't know if Palm Bay ever had the experience of having a former Majors golf course, 200 acres, closed and allowed to decay for going on 3 years this Father's Day. No, not a year ago, I think it was last summer. I met with the deputy fire chief and Rodney Edwards, and we walked my area in Summerfield Golf Course. There are weeds in there and nasty bush, I'm going to call it, taller than me. So that's 5, 6 feet tall or what have you. Nothing's been done. My conversation is in the summer months when all of that stuff is dead, you get a lightning strike. Okay. And let's call a moderate wind of just like, 10 knots. Mr. May, that'd be about 12 miles an hour. Okay. You know, what's going to happen? The previous fire chiefs gave a long explanation that if there was a fire, it's 8 minutes for that house to be consumed and a moderate wind. So we had walked, and I walked with Deputy Fire Chief Nathan. We had a nice conversation. There are areas where the majors, the former majors, has not mowed all the way in the back. I tried to get a hold of somebody in what's it called, code compliance, and I've left voicemails, I left emails. Nobody's ever followed up and followed through. One of the questions we had in this I guess it used to be 25 or 30 feet prior to the person's property. Now it's moved back to 15. Okay, you get any kind of fire with all of this dead bush in there, and we're going to have major problems in there. So let's be a little proactive with that. Why can't that be 30 or 50 feet? I was hoping we'd get from the fire department an assessment what kind of danger or hazard that would be, especially when you have all this dry bush that you're going to find out in where it gets hot, May, June, July, and you really have a serious issue here. And I would really like to see some follow through coming back from council. Now we're working on it, we're looking at it or what have you. The same thing with lily pads. We had so many lily pads on golf course property, and I think there was going to be an ordinance drawn up because of that, the guy from I can't think, Mike McCabe, they're getting beach chairs blown in the canals and whatnot. Add lily pads, add dead animals and whatnot. You got a flooding issue. Thank you.
Mr. Morgan, on that regarding the golf course and the setbacks of those, I guess the question would be better posed to Patricia Smith. Are we enforcing that still today, or what is the story with that? Because I know that Rodney was helping code enforcement with that.
We are enforcing the current ordinances. I think what he was seeking is a revision to the ordinance. At least that was my understanding of it. But certainly any complaints that are made to code investigates. In this case, there were some issues about whether there was a fire hazard, in which I had Deputy City Attorney Rodney Edwards go out with the Deputy Chief of Fire to walk and see his concerns.
Okay.
So we did investigate the things that he brought up.
Yeah, can we look and I guess I'm looking at council at the same time, kind of like expanding that is what he's looking at then, right? The footage or of the setback, or
look at it, but of course, and we will meet again. When you enact the policy, you enact the policy citywide. So it's not just going to be regarding the majors golf course and the residents beside it. It's going to affect all vacant properties. And so that is certainly something that must be weighed. Certainly if council desires to reevaluate that, that's something that can be determined. But if we bring it up, we're going to have to assess the impact that policy change would have citywide.
Understood. Mr. Morgan, have you had an opportunity to visit with Mr. Stice regarding his concerns?
Not yet, no.
Okay. Well, perhaps in that meeting, we'll get a better understanding of where we could go, or what other recourse.
Yes, as your city attorney told you, certainly the existing city ordinances, it's staff's responsibility to ensure that those are enforced. So that's sort of first call in making sure that code enforcement is enforcing the current codes. And if that's something that can be done, that's an administrative matter. I think what our city attorney has told us is that with additional distance from existing homes that would affect other properties throughout the city, That's a legislative consideration, but in terms of the enforcing of the existing code, that's an administrative task.
Well, also what he mentioned was the possibility of the public safety issue of fire encroaching on the property, with the woods being so high or the vegetation being so high. So I'm just thinking that we should be looking at and considering all of that, and maybe a meeting with yourself and him and maybe the chief, looking at this. There may be some type of resolution that we may be overlooking. All right, thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Ruth Caulfield.
Hello. Happy New Year, Council.
Happy New Year.
My name is Ruth Caulfield, 935 Douglas Street Southeast. I have a couple of things. It's a brand new day and a brand new year. Let's all work together, please. Citizens' voices are being removed from this city council. So how about we start some new workshops instead? So somewhere along the line, citizens need to be heard. So workshops could allow that to happen, have an equal base for Sunshine Law to happen, and to enable the citizens to be heard. There appears to be a, I don't know if it's the acronym CERA software, could be a situation of security, of infringing upon our rights constitutionally. And I know it's on your consent agenda, and I'm hoping you'll take it off because it needs to be investigated a little bit more. In 2023, a church in my neighborhood had wanted to sell approximately 13 acres of land in my neighborhood to allow five apartment buildings that could infringe upon every single house in my neighborhood, with more cars, more people. It's 13 acres. We don't need 5 buildings of 992 residents and 300 and some cars going through there with only one exit in out. So that's going to happen again if planning approves this. Now they've reduced it to, I think, 37 single family lots. But again, the situation doesn't change just because you change that. Our neighborhood doesn't have any more room for any more people or housing, because the current housing that's happening already is deteriorating our streets. We have no street lights, haven't had any ever. And so we cannot absorb all of this. And I still don't see on the plot map that may come before planning that we have another in out. There's supposed to be 2. And then clean water, I heard on the last council, was confusing to council. Let me help you understand. Clean water means not dirty. It's just as simple as that. Clean water, not dirty. That's what we need. So these are the things that I'm looking for information from you. Thank you so much.
Hey, before you go off.
Miss Ruth, that diagram that you have,
Yes.
what is that project name? Because that's not coming before us today. What
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I haven't got any more than this. I know that the church voted to sell the lot, and this is what they're giving. I can give you this. You can copy it.
Is that, what church is that?
Center Point.
Center Point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we didn't.
This 2023, we had this same situation happen. They've just redesigned it for single family.
Yeah, but it
versus
never
multi.
came before council, right?
Not yet.
It never came before.
Well,
Okay.
did it?
No, it never came.
It didn't even go past P&Z.
It didn't, yeah, it never
Okay,
came.
so I don't want this to go past P&Z either.
Okay, so this is being discussed today. Is what you're saying.
I don't know. It's not. It hasn't been on the
So,
agenda.
Not us.
I'm just
This-
encouraging you.
Here, that
If you
property's
see
already
this come
sold.
across,
Yeah,
say
say
no.
again?
The property's
What's-
not even sold.
Okay.
What's
as
the
you
in and
will.
out street that you're talking about?
It's Center Point, and the
There's only one in
it's
out.
actually right now it's zoned
Probably.
rural residential, right?
Half
Those
the-
are 1 acre lots, correct?
The bottom part is zone Res 2, and the larger section's zone rural residential.
It's, so, Madam Roof, all I'm saying is you're bringing something that we're not going to be discussing. But it's good to know what the point is. It is the Center Point property.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All
I
right.
just don't. I just
Okay.
don't want to be blindsided by last time it was. So we had to
Okay.
bring the whole neighborhood together.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. That concludes
No
our.
more speaker cards for public comment.
Thank you. So at this time, we are now under consent. Deputy Mayor?
I have no speaker cards for, I think it's a different process. Has any council member been asked to remove anything from consent or?
Well, I would, does anyone want to pull anything from consent at this time? I would say we should discuss item 6.
Yeah, item 6, and I want to pull item 8.
Okay.
But
Okay.
can we, before we move forward though, I think there's people that want to speak on other items in the future, or based off the rules that we passed last time. Are residents able to speak during new business?
Negative, and I
Okay.
voted against that for the record.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everyone got a chance to speak before we move further, because I think there's other people that want to speak on items on the agenda.
They had an opportunity in public.
Well, that's what I'm
comment.
saying. I don't want to move past public comment if not everyone's spoken, they're not going to get another option.
They can still speak under agenda items on the agenda. It's just the.
No, he's talking about consent.
Right. The consent would have had to be under public comments, but anything
Right.
else on the
Right.
agenda,
Yes,
they
ma'am.
they can speak.
So they can speak on items under new business when we get
Yes.
to new business.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
I just wanted to verify that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So we're actually pulling 6 and 8. Council's pulling 6 and 8. So I need a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
I got a motion for the consent agenda with the removal of items 6 and 8 by Deputy Mayor Jaffe, seconded by Councilman Langevin. Gentlemen, I have a council member that's joining us by phone. So Councilman Johnson, do you have any comments?
I'm good, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes 5-0. So I guess we'll go to item number 6 at this time.
Mayor,
Yes.
If
Oh,
I-
as you were, Madam Attorney, carry on.
ordinance 2025-01, an ordinance of the city of Palm Bay, Brevard County, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances, Title 5, Legislative, Chapter 52, Subchapter Youth Advisory Board, by repealing the subchapter in its entirety, providing for the repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for deletion from the City of Palm Bay Code of Ordinances, providing for a severability clause, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. So I thought item 6 we should discuss. I know there's some security issues along with this. So I wanted, I'm going to yield to Mr. Morgan, which I believe will brief. There were some discussions and emails I'm sure that you might have received as well with a response covering the process that they went through, but I want to make it public at this time for everyone to understand regarding item 6. Mr. Morgan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We did get a couple of emails requesting information about this, and we prepared initial response to those. But we do have our IT director and police chief here that can answer any questions that the public may have about various aspects of the proposal. Basically, this is a proposed software that would allow our first responders to communicate in a critical incident. And I think everyone is in favor of that happening. The questions became sort of more about the data and how that data is used and how it might be shared among law enforcement agencies. So we have our IT director and police chief available for any of those kinds of questions that the council may have as a result of those emails or the public comments earlier.
Yeah, if we could just have them go through, because there was discussion about who's behind the CERA, who's behind that. So security wise, and I know that you went through that process. Can you just share with the verification process, Mr. Robinson?
Brian Robinson, IT Director. So the first process that we go through from an IT perspective is to do a cybersecurity analysis. And we reach out to the vendor, we ask them to provide information about what their security posture is, make sure where's the data stored, who can access the data, and when is the data activated. So from the standpoint of where the data is stored, those data is actually stored on the Microsoft Azure government tenant, which actually has very high security restrictions or compliance regulations. There's also the area where the data has to make sure that it is, when it's translated in terms of moving from that platform to a mobile device, and in this case, it is an app. All right, so I should explain it from that perspective. It is an application that is on that someone actually could download, which is only given to law enforcement agencies. It is based on subscription, and so organization would actually have signed a agreement to provide access to their organization in this program. And so law enforcement would have access to that, which is actually shared interagency when an activation take place. Data is encrypted at rest in the platform as well as in transit. And so from the standpoint of if the information can be moved overseas based on the standards that has to be met by the government tenant, that data has to stay within the United States. It moved between different data centers for redundancy purposes, but all that data has to stay within the United States to abide by federal and state guidelines for the type of data and the sensitivity of that. On top of that, there's layers of the CJIS compliance that also have to be accounted for, which is also incorporated to have that type of a tenant available. So all of those, based on our assessment, all of those concerns from a cybersecurity standpoint or where the data is all answered based on the compliance assessment that we've gone through.
And I get that. And first of all, I want to thank Judy Trammell that she brought this to our attention. Her concerns with the company's ownership and governance. And I believe you respond, if you could just respond to that the way you responded in the email. Do you have that?
Yeah, I can pull that up. Sure.
Because ma'am, I commend you for reaching out to me.
So all software subscription agreement has to be reviewed by our city attorney's office, the IT department, as well as the procurement department. So all of any requirement or regulation within those agreements are validated by those three departments to ensure that there is compliance for state and federal guidelines. So that is our current process, and we continue to do that on every software agreement that comes forward.
Understood. All right. Thank you. Any questions, Council? Any other questions, Councilman Lamb? Okay. Let me ask, Councilman Johnson, do you have any other questions regarding consent item number 6?
No, Mayor, I'm good, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hammond.
I'd like to hear how the chief feels about it, to see if it's something that could make him do his job a little better or not. And,
okay.
I think that's the most important
Chief, come
thing
on
here.
over. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So yes, I believe that this will be a tool that it will be essential moving into the future for law enforcement and all of first responders. I just want to put just to shed some light with regard to some concerns that we may have in terms of overreach and things of that nature. So as Director Robinson mentioned, it's an app, right? So the user of said phone, correct, cell phone, has to go into an agreement to be part of this program. So if you're not part of this program, there is no, we'll be able to track your location or anything. And even with those that are part of this program, school faculty, teachers, students that are part of this app, this cloud-based platform, it's geofenced to that property. For example, one of our local schools, it's geofenced for that area. Once you step off of that area, it's dormant. It's not tracked or monitored. But it's only activated if, for example, I'm a student or I'm a faculty member at a school, I hit the activation button on the app to notify first responders. So it's not that it's a 24-hour constant monitoring and surveillance of your location or GPS and that nature. And what it does, it's like a 911 phone call, right, to our dispatch. So I call 911, I'm providing facts and details to the operator. And then they then forward it to law enforcement, and then we respond. This minimizes our response to an incident at a school, at an event, should it be applicable to that type of incident, within seconds. Miami Springs PD is looking at it. The city of Miami Springs PD. In fact, this past June of 2024, when it went through their council. It's a vital tool. I just want to put that out there in clarity that the user, meaning the student or member that's part of this program, has to agree to terms with the municipality and also with SARA, the organization that's working through Stand with Parkland initiative, to be part of it. If you're not, and you don't sign the agreement, you don't have that access to that app.
So it's on an individual basis.
Correct.
Each person gets to make their own
Correct.
choice.
So if I'm a teacher or a faculty member and it goes off by a student somewhere in the school on campus, I can monitor and track it, and they can then communicate directly to first responders. So once they step off that property, it's dormant because it's geofenced around that specific property for that area.
That satisfies your questions.
And have you seen other people around other cities that they're actually utilizing this? And
The only one that I'm aware of, like I mentioned, is Miami Springs PD, and I haven't gotten with their chief and their staff yet on that. But it's something that we would like to look at to assist us with what's been happening with our critical incidents and with our first responders. For us, fire, our local agencies in the county, the sheriff's office, and those resources, because the schools also have to be on board with the school district and the school board. Yeah. So this is, we saw an opportunity to, for our citizens to protect lives and provide a service better than what we are right now, to improve it, I should say, with our response time on a critical incident. But it's also at no cost. So we want to see if the school board's on board with it. We try it out, kind of like a pilot program. But in the meantime, while we're doing it, we can also potentially save a life.
Does that conclude your questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to pass.
Got a motion by Councilman Langevin.
I'll second that.
Got a second by Councilman Hammer. Any further discussion, gentlemen?
Well, I'll just say, as far as the government overreach, obviously at the last meeting, I thought the cameras were much more of a government overreach than this is. And the reason is because, like the chief said, you have to opt into it, whereas the cameras were watching everybody all the time. However, I was beaten on that one. And so I'm going to go ahead and make a motion on this one because it is an opt-in and it's for protecting our schools. And so if they're really leaving the geofence area and they're opting in, and they're getting taken off of it, then it's not really as much of a government oversight as like a city full of cameras watching your every move, which we're already doing. So,
all in favor, signify by.
With me myself, I have two kids, and I can't sit here and just be like, if something happens, there's a chance that I could have done something, and I can't sit here and not do something when it's not going to cost us anything. If it doesn't work after a year, I think it goes away. But
it is a tool.
I really don't want to be able to prevent something later on in life and really regret not doing it.
Well, that's good. It is a tool, much like the cameras are a huge tool in crime fighting. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed or passes 5-0. We're now on item 8. Councilman Langevin, you pulled this one.
Yeah. So I pulled this one because, so actually, why don't we do a quick introduction of the item, if that's all right? Could we bring Chief up and explain what this item is and what's going on with it?
Mr. Morgan?
Yes.
Or Mr. Morgan, yeah.
Sure, the chief would be
Gotcha.
more than happy to provide an introduction to the item.
Yeah. It's about Zeke.
Good evening. Yes, correct. So this is one of our current canines, Zeke. So he's a Belgian Malinois, and so we've had him for less than a year, under a year. He developed some medical conditions, still workable according to our vet, but there's a concern there that long-term use of Zeke could potentially he wouldn't last in terms of full service, I should say, right? So our current handler at the time of Zeke's is no longer part of our unit. She stepped down from the unit, but offered to, you know, take Zeke home with her and pay for the cost of her partner. So the reason why we're looking to move forward, we've already purchased another Belgian, another dog for our newest handler. We wanted to give him a fresh start. We wanted to give him a fresh animal with no ailments, with no medical conditions and no issues, to better serve the citizens of the city, and also to be, you know, have some longevity. With Zeke, it was an unknown, even though our vet's saying, "Yep, he's got some ailments. You know, we could still work them, but." So we didn't want to work under the basis of but when it comes to public safety. So that's why this item is in front of you today.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So thank you, Chief, for that introduction on the item. I thought that was good before I start moving forward. So the reason that I pulled this was, I mean, you know, our working dogs are in a way, you know, they're tools, but also they're kind of more than that. And I know, you know, Mayor, in the Marine Corps, we give ranks to our working dogs, and I've even seen a dog get demoted for taking a number 2 on the major's carpet. So that we hold them to a little bit higher standard than just tools. And like our officers, you know, they can undergo, unfortunately, you know, medical incidences on the job. And that's what ended up happening. And I think Chief is doing the right thing as far as moving forward with a new dog. But the reason I wanted to pull this item is because, you know, I like the idea that the handler wants to take the dog home and give it a great life. It's better than just selling it to somebody that we don't know. But our police officers do not make a lot of money. And I don't feel comfortable forcing one of our police officers that wants to give who she considered a partner a good life and to keep that partnership and make one of our police officers pay $11,000. So I wanted to pull this item because I wanted to see if there was consensus from council to see if we could work with that officer to lower that price. And personally, I think there should be a small price so that we're kind of not setting a bad precedent. But I was kind of thinking if the officer was willing to put 11,000 in, maybe the officer would be really willing to put 1,000 in, and the city could cover the other 10,000. And so the reason the city would have to cover the other 10,000 is because the police department paid $11,000 out of its you know, new hire, new equipment budget, and it would have to recoup that $11,000 because we need to keep bringing on new hires. They need to be equipped. But I think this is something that we could do for the morale of the department, and just, in my opinion, it's the right thing to do because we hold our dogs to a higher standard than just tools. And I want them to stay with their partner, but at the same time, I don't want to charge one of our officers $11,000.
No, I understand what you're saying. Chief, can you, Mr. Morgan, can he come back up?
Certainly.
So for the record, sir, we're charging the officer $11,000.
Correct.
And instead of her just taking Zeke home, because you would actually put the dog on the market for $11,000.
Well, not that we would put it on the market. We would have to find other means of what we would end up doing with Zeke. So that is also a concern as well. So, and like Councilman Langevin mentioned, you know, it was something that the officer mentioned. We didn't even look at it. The other side of it, yes, it is. There is the discussion of recouping some funding because we ended up taking out of an account to purchase a new dog so we can move forward with the training. So, you know, that would be the dilemma. I know we spoke about it briefly today with Mr. Morgan. It's just whether or not what council's direction is with regards to it. I would be okay either way.
So what, okay, stand fast. Mr. Morgan, the $10,000, where would that come from?
Well,
since you discussed it earlier.
yeah, obviously this is something the council is discussing. You know, as your advisor on these kinds of things, I think I would say that this is sort of standard operating procedure for all law enforcement agencies throughout the county to recoup the remaining value of an asset if sold to an employee of the city. So I think one of you mentioned about if that would create a precedent, that kind of thing. Um, Obviously, the asset was paid for by the city, by the taxpayers. We have an officer willing to make that purchase because they bonded so closely. I guess if I were to offer an alternative to the suggestion by Councilman Langevin might be that perhaps we could offer the officer an easy pay plan as opposed to forgiving some of the value of the asset. Obviously, that's up to the council, but it would be an alternative that would still recoup the value of that, but perhaps, no interest paid over a longer period of time. That way the taxpayers are assured that an asset of the city is not given to an employee. I know that's not the council's intention, but that may be something that you might also want to consider.
And I appreciate that. Chief, may I ask the officer to come forward? Man, first of all, thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
And I love your heart. Zeke is your partner, and I appreciate your heart. Councilman Langevin has a big heart in this, right? Because Zeke is your partner, and I know and I fully understand where you're going with this, Councilman. I'm in total transparency. I'm quite surprised. I love that you've got that type of heart. Yeah. Well, but I'll ask you, would something like that assist you, having it on a payment plan, or would you, you heard what he'd like to do. I know that you were prepared to pay the $11,000, but would something like what the city manager's proposing benefit you, or what are your thoughts on what we're discussing up here?
I very much appreciate what you said, and the offer for that as well. And the offer for the payment plan. I would rather just pay out the $11,000. I also think that's very fair since that's what we got him for the department. I understand that he is able to work, but it would be with a lot of extra care and a lot of extra steps due to his medical issues. So it would just be best for him and the department. But I think the 11,000 is fair. That's what we paid for him in the first place. So plus to recoup from the new dog.
God bless you. God bless you, ma'am. And then I guess my follow-up question in this, because I just love your heart, right? That's your partner. So he won't be on duty anymore. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah. Okay.
He'd be a house dog.
He'll be a house dog. Oh, a great watchdog too, right?
A very well-trained one.
Yeah, those guys are good. Yeah, copy that. Well, I appreciate that. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I haven't asked. Is there a possibility that we can table this, have a city sponsored event to possibly get the money together and she pays what we don't make?
You know, I that might be a great idea, but I'm gonna look at you and see what your thoughts.
Obviously, the dog goes home with you, and it's with you until then. But this will be a decision from us. We all come up with an event for you, and the proceeds go to you, and whatever is left, you pay.
Gotcha. Well, given that I do have a great job, but you know my age, so may I ask my bank that is sitting behind me?
Sure, absolutely. Carry on.
Sounds good.
Okay. That's your bank?
Yes. Bank of Mommy.
Outstanding. Well, let me know the name of that bank so I could refer to that in the future. So, logistically, thank you, Officer Blackley, and thank you for what you do, man. We really appreciate you. God bless you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Chief. So logistically, what Councilman Hammer suggested is we do an event, do a fundraiser of some sort, I'm believing, and he's going to take charge of this. Yeah. And so logistically, how does that work? Can the dog still go with her? And then, or do you need the funds like ASAP to start
Well, no. So, the funds ASAP are not, no, that's not required. In terms of the dog hasn't been working. So, because Jennifer's no longer part of the canine unit, she retired from the unit. So the dog isn't, I hate to say it this way, isn't employed, but it's still an employee of the city. So, there is still that, it's still, hate to say it, it still belongs to the city. So in terms of the funding, how quickly we can do the fundraising, yeah, I don't believe, there's an expedited date for it that's needed, but he's not working. No, he's not on the job.
So logistically, Mr. Scott, and I guess city attorney, we can go ahead and I guess we would table this for the time being, right?
Either that or the option of she pays and then the fundraiser pays her back.
Okay, that's a great option too. Yes, ma'am, carry on.
Mayor,
Yeah.
we're going to have a city fundraiser. It would be legal's preference that the fundraiser that the city's doing would have money go to the city. It's going to get a little bit more tricky when we have a fundraiser to raise money for a private individual. But if we're raising money for the for the city's asset, that may, be less legal hoops and wrangling that I may have to undergo. Certainly, this is something we haven't done, so we're all going to have to get together and create policies and figure out how to move forward with it. But I'm going to have a lot harder time getting council what it desires if we're not raising money for the city.
So what he's referring to is at least for reimbursement, that option. I think he threw that on the table just lately. Is that going to complicate the issue more?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe that's not an option. So we would, obviously you're aware that now it's complicated just trying to do a fundraiser.
Well, as I would do it is I would say we would make some kind of contract that says, whatever is made at this, you're going to be responsible for whatever isn't. But other than that, it would be a fundraiser to get rid of a city asset. It's, just like a broken truck or something.
Okay. Right now, I hear where Councilman Langevin going, and I'm trying to navigate every personality up here. Okay. I hear where he's going. His is pretty much the simplest. If anything, have her put something down, and then the city, somehow pick up the balance. I don't know what would be best. What do you recommend, Mr.? Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I have a lot
that
of
we made?
comments.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we should just move forward with the agreement as indicated here. And if Mike wants to host a GoFundMe fundraiser as a citizen of Palm Bay, that would probably generate a lot of money. I deal in a world of what ifs. Like, what if we do this and the dog passes away tomorrow? Where does the money go? What if we raise more than $11,000? Where does that money go? Can staff handle more tasks at this time right now? So I think, it sounds like she has the money to make the purchase, the transfer. It's clean, it's done, and do a GoFundMe.
So Deputy Mayor's the voice of reason up here right now. And Councilman Johnson, what are your thoughts?
Mayor, I'm actually good to make a motion to move this forward. I think we're making it a little more complex right now because we have a few more hot ticket items coming up. But I'm in support of moving this forward. I would make the motion myself once council's ready and finished with their dialogue. But I don't want us to make it too complex because that's what it sounds like. It's starting to get a little complex on the other end. So I want to make sure we're mindful and we're just sticking to what we need to do as a body. So that's all, Mayor.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because you're not here. You're not seeing the body language, and I am, sir. So I appreciate you. Unless you're watching on TV, and I don't know if you can see everyone, but we've got the voice of reason. Let's just move forward. And Councilman Hammer, if you want to, like they said, do a GoFundMe, you might want to work that out person to person, right? Because I know you've done that in the past anyway. All right. So I'll need a motion, gentlemen.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Jaffe. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. We are now on item number 1 under procurements. Mr. Morgan.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, this is a significant award of bid. By way of background, last summer, the council approved an allocation of $3.7 million in general fund for purchasing and installing 2 temporary fire stations, Northwest Station 8 and Southeast Station 9. These are very much needed locations for fire stations, and this action would move the forward on the temporary stations. This estimate includes the cost of design, permitting, installation, delivery, and it will provide the ability for 7 firefighters, 1 engine, and a squad vehicle, a high water brush rescue vehicle. The structure has a 3-year warranty and can sustain hurricane level winds up to 175 miles an hour, and it is equipped with hurricane impact windows, but it also can be disassembled at such time as they might be needed to be relocated. In addition, as a add-alt item, each station is fully furnished as part of the negotiated price. So we did go out to bid. It's a recommendation that we award the bid to Elite Aluminum Corporation. The total bid amount is just under $3.2 million. And then we would also ask the council to issue a purchase order for one of the 2, which is for Southeast Station 9, which has less site work needed than Northwest Station 8. And the way these modulars arrive on trucks, they should be immediately loaded off the truck and assembled on the site. And so we need to have the sites completely ready with everything site preparation needs, including utilities. The only thing sort of outstanding on Southeast Fire Station 9 is we're about ready to finish a lease agreement. The city doesn't own the property on which that will be housed, but I understand that's in the final phases and will be coming to you probably at your next council meeting. The need is great. It's in accordance with previous council decisions to move forward with these temporary stations. We do have our procurement chief officer and our fire chief here if there are other questions, but I would strongly recommend that the council approve the item as we have recommended.
Thank you, Chief. Now, you said that we could always use this at a different location once we purchase these temporary modulars, for lack of a better term. We could always set them up somewhere else and reuse those. You said
Yes,
how
we would be the owners of both. Again, we're asking the council to award the bid for both, but only execute the purchase order for the one that we think the site can be ready in the near term, within the next few months. The other site needs more site work, and so we would not issue the purchase order, but the value of that is that they'll hold the current pricing.
No, copy.
And I give a lot of credit to procurement. Actually, this is lower than the bid that the vendor provided. Procurement negotiated $120,000 reduction from what the bid was. So I think your staff has done a really good job on this item. I know the fire chief really needs these to be up and running as soon as possible. So it's our combined recommendation that the council proceed with this.
So when you rebuild these, as an example, would we be able to do that, or we have to hire the company back to reinstall those?
I don't know the answer to that. Obviously, they're ours. I don't know if Steve's smiling at me. I don't know if he knows the answer. We're seeing nodding and shaking,
I see the chief nodding his head.
which
that he'll-
means
Yeah. Come on, come on.
Good evening. What'll happen is as soon as we're done at one site, we'll have to pay an additional fee to that company that's we're purchasing these from. They will come to that site. They'll take them apart. They'll relocate them to where we say to. They'll put them back together and they'll go home and we'll be in a new station. A station at a new location, I should say.
Understood.
Right.
Thank you, sir. So we'll always be beholden to them. We can't build it ourselves.
I'm going to say probably yes, because of the technical work involved in taking it back apart and putting it back together. If we want it done right, I don't think we're going to want a bunch of firefighters doing that.
Well, not firefighters, but our our maintenance team. You know that.
I would defer to Steve on that one there, but I think it's probably better that we do it with them, because then they would
understood.
The conversation I had with them is they take care of making sure that everything is waterproof again and that kind of stuff.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you. Speaker card, sir.
Bill Batten.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street, Southwest. I've got a couple of items to bring up on this one. Right. In August 13th of 2024, City Council voted in of general funds of $3.7 million for 2 stations. Right. So I'm going through this new packet and I'm looking at it. That packet actually included at that time, it was $51,000 for furniture. That's what was in the packet. Now we're looking at $3.1 million for 1 unit with $1.5 million for the furniture packet. So the furniture packet from the original proposal in August 13th of 2024 was $51,000. Now the furniture packet in this new packet shows it as $1.5 million, right? Just for curiosity's sake. That's what I'm looking at. So it went from 3.7, 3. To a drop to 3.1 plus a 1.5 million. So for what started out as 3.7 million for 2, now is 4.6 for 1. Big change in just 4 months, right? What changed? Oh yeah, my council. But it does have a 3-year, warranty for $4.6 million. That's how it appears to the public looking at what we see, because that's exactly what I took out of the agenda as I read it. That's what we see. That might not be what the impact is, but that's what we look at, right? Now we go back to last council meeting for the Live Local Act. These buildings for whatever cost is going to be 3.7 or 3.1, whatever it's going to end up being, that could be the new Live Local shelter that we have to have for protection. We had to come up with a mechanism. Well, there's a mechanism that it could be used later on for something else. That's just for proposal. Now, just for conversation's sake, since I don't get to speak at the end of the meetings, how much is it going to cost to relocate these buildings when we tear them down and build them back up? Right? Just to recap on that, to make sure I use all 3 minutes, we started out with 3.7 million. Then it went from a $51,000 furniture to $1.5 million for furniture, right? That's what I see when we look at the packets, when we look at the agendas. That's what we see going through it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan?
Yeah, I take responsibility if the staff report is confusing to members of the public, but let me assure you that the award of the bid is for 3.186 million. 1 completely furnished is 1.539 million, exactly half of that. And so we're not talking about 4 million in aggregate. So I apologize if the staff report is confusing, but I can assure you that the numbers are within the budget that the council set. Now we will have some site improvements that are needed for this. And so there's some engineering, permitting, But in terms of the structures themselves, that is the number and it includes the furnishings.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Any other speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Okay, council, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion. So moved.
I'll second. Deputy Mayor?
No discussion.
So I'll just say this is all about reducing response times. I'm going to bring it back to what the goals are and having those stations. Right now we're taxing station 1 and 5. We've got one getting assistance with station 7, which is what is being built, and this is the focus in saving lives and reducing those response times. So that's why I've also seconded. Councilman Johnson, any comments before we move on?
No, Mayor, I will be in support.
Councilman Hammer?
I would like to say it. I think there's a little bit of confusing here. They're buying both of them now. So that price is that high because we're buying both right now. We're moving forward on one right now. But if you know about a sole source means there's nobody else that offers it. So the fact that we negotiated on that is crazy because there's nobody else to compete with them. So thank you, our procurement team, for that. What I will like to say is we have two crews right now that are just riding around in a vehicle. And I for a city our size and everything that we do, I think that's unacceptable. I do like the fact that we are getting both within our budget, and we did get them for a little cheaper. And I'm glad we're finally doing something. We're not treading water anymore and kicking the can down the road with, we need something for people. We need something for people. This is our step forward in getting something for our police and fire.
Thank you for that, Councilman Hammer, and I thank you for bringing up the procurement negotiation tactics. The gentleman used to be a Major League Baseball player, and the Yankees could use that kind of negotiation tactics with Steve Burrows. So that being said, do you have any other comments, sir? All right, I've got a motion by Deputy Mayor Jaffe, seconded by Mayor Medina. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. We're now on item number 2. Mr. Morgan.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, this is the final contract addition for our engineering services during construction for our soon to open South Regional Water Reclamation Facility. We are getting nearer to substantial completion, and we're expecting completion later on this spring. If you look in the staff report, the city had borrowed $36 million from the state revolving loan program for this major wastewater treatment facility to serve the entire south part of Palm Bay. And you have previously approved 3 amendments to this service. If you sort of look at the big picture, this would bring that service to about 3.6 million, which is roughly 10% of what we borrowed for the project. So we're sort of in the middle of the range of what these services typically would cost, between 8 and 12%. And so this would be the last change order that we would come to you on this project. We know that there's been some delays, but now we're past the point where this project is likely to be delayed because we're so near completion. And we borrowed back in 2019 some $36 million for this really important project. There are many people with significant investments in this part of the city that are completely relying on this, and so we really do need to get to end game, and this will be the last time you would see a amendment to this particular engineering services.
Thank you. Council, any questions from the city manager? Councilman Hammer?
I'm extremely versed on this. It's been in my life for 4 years. I'm ready to see it go away.
Deputy Mayor, any questions?
No, sir.
Any questions, Councilman Johnson?
I'm good, Mayor.
Thank you. Any speaker cards?
No speaker cards.
Okay, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Got a motion by Councilman Langevin, seconded by Councilman Hammer. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Seeing none, I'll pose the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. We are now on item number 1 in new business. Mr. Morgan.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, last summer, our Community Economic Development Department gave an update on the existing economic development programs of the city and wanted to get some direction from the council. And the council did at that time. Obviously, since the election, we have a new council, and we thought it would be appropriate to have the council have some discussion on this topic so that staff would have a clear policy direction on where the new council might want to go on these programs. Our Deputy City Manager, Joan Giancala, would be happy to provide any background. It's a very short staff report, but we're really looking for some council guidance with some big picture economic development ideas that the council might want us to, as staff, to pursue.
Yes, sir. Why don't, Madam Giancala Brown, why don't you give us a brief history of the direction that we were going in?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So as our city manager alluded to, we did give a presentation on August 22nd. Of course, that was under former council. And staff is just looking for guidance on how we proceed because the consensus we received from council at the August 22nd workshop was to proceed exploring all of those opportunities and bringing back each of those programs for council's consideration and approval. So the just quick summary and rundown of those items. One is the site readiness program, which is a program that incentivizes inducements, if you will, incentives to get a site pad ready and encourages commercial industrial development. The second program is the We Venture Ignite 360 program. So it's a sponsorship program for businesses in Palm Bay to participate in that program that already exists in We Venture, a program of the US SBA. The other item is a series of efforts to look at facilitating development of the compound. And then we discussed the need for additional staff capacity for economic development efforts. And then finally, the item I believe that you championed, sir, was the attendance at conferences, trade shows, and other training opportunities.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And so staff is looking for that guidance. This is, and I just want to share these thoughts. Part of the presentation, this council decided to remove that commercial facade improvement grant. I understand that was the direction, and so, but here's where I believe I am for the ad valorem tax abatement. It is incentive based. If they don't create those jobs, then they get no incentives. Business improvement district, we could look at hub zones, new markets regarding opportunity zones, foreign trade zones, and federal programs. Part of that, though, for me, is recruitment of prospective businesses and also knocking on the doors of those that are light industrial within our corridors today, right? Whether you have to cold call them, knock on those doors, right? And see if there's any opportunity for advancement, any opportunity for those businesses to hire additional people. Building those relationships with those businesses. So that's where I'm at, council. I'll start on, or let me start with Councilman Johnson, since he's on the line. Councilman Johnson?
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah, your thoughts about the economic development?
Yes, I'm good with everything on the economic development recommendations, the site readiness. The only thing I'm hesitant on is more staff. I don't feel we need more staff. But everything else I'm good for.
Okay, so the staff part of it, it would be more, your thoughts. I'm just trying to dig a little deeper into your comments. Your staff opportunity is, as what you're saying, is more on the lines of when the need or increases. Is that what I'm hearing?
Are you asking me, Mayor?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep. Well, I guess I'm conflicted because I'm looking at Viera and they have no staff and they're getting everything. And yeah, I guess I'm conflicted on it.
Yes, yeah, we can't compare to Viera because there's a huge difference. I wish we were master planned like that, right?
Yeah.
We're so
Yes,
far
sir.
from that, but that's not a fair assessment or comment. I just wanted to dig a little deeper into so I understand the staff issue. Like as we continue to develop and businesses continue to come in, then you'll see the need for more staff. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Well, I'm open. I really love how much I've seen it, even on LinkedIn. I love how much Danielle Cross and Robert have been getting engaged with different different like functions and traveling all over. Like I love that. And if it means that we need to make sure we have staff, back here in the city of Palm Bay while they do their thing, or they're home in City Hall while somebody else is going out, so be it. Because I know we can get some of those companies out in California here, just like we got Rogue Valley here. So I think we need to make sure we are utilizing our time and staff efficiently. So if it means we have to hire one or two more to recruit, then so be it.
Yeah, I think training is paramount at this juncture because remember we're starting out the way I see it. I don't see where we don't need any training. I think the more training we could facilitate our folks and go out into the community as well. But that's where I'm at. Thank you for sharing your insight. I'm going to start off with Councilman Langevin all the way to my left.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start off by saying I agree with what Councilman Johnson initially said. I think until we hire a full-time city manager that is going to come in and take over and develop the culture the way they see things and see things the way that they want to move forward, I don't think we should be creating any new full-time positions. That's my main concern with it. I'm with you on tax abatement, Mayor. I'm with us making things site ready. So the majority of the other things on here I'm with, but I just think I would be more comfortable holding off until we have that full-time city manager and they've gotten their feet wet before we decide that we want new full-time positions, because it's a lot easier for that new city manager to say, well, I have a model for how I want to run the city and it really needs to be like this. And I don't need these positions, but 2 months ago you made these positions. So instead, I'd rather just wait, see what they think. And then if they want to, we can have that conversation and I'd be more open to it. But that's just where I'm at on those full-time positions. I do have a question. What is the We Venture Ignite 360 program? Could I get a little bit more explanation on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll discuss that. I want to hear from Councilman Hammer and then we'll cue staff.
I really like the first one of the core responsibilities. It's attract new businesses. I would really like to see that happen here, but I think we're doing a disservice to try to abide by this program when we've got a new economic development, or we have a new director that was not here for this workshop. So we brought him in for his new ideas and the new things that he's bringing to the table, but he wasn't here for this. So I would really like to have his input on a lot of this before we even do anything.
Okay, we could
I'd
definitely
really like to see that because we did bring him in for his ideas, for his contacts, for the things that he can offer the city, and for us to sit here and make decisions without having his ideas on this.
I'm sure he's seen the presentation, but we'll
but
have Mr. Hatcher come up and share with us.
All right.
If that's all right, Mr. Morgan.
Yes, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
And then we'll get back to your We Venture brief.
Good evening, council. Mr. Mayor. So actually the night of the economic development workshop, I actually did attend. I actually was here to be a part of the presentation, and have had several meetings with the economic development team regarding these items specifically. And I am in full support of these items that have been submitted.
Is there anything extra that you want to add to it?
Not at this time. I feel as if what we have submitted is a great start for us to add some more incentives and some more items that we can use at our disposal to attract in new business.
I would say in 2016, I was actually part of a group, and we actually got our business to residential at 22%. We had 22% business coming in, and then with residential, you had, the rest. My question is, we did a series of videos, and we used those videos to get out to people to bring them to Palm Bay. We have an extremely talented video crew at our disposal there. Is that something that we can work on again? Because I really feel that worked really good. I mean, it brought $140 million in new business in 1 year here. So is that something that we could
I would
look
have
into?
to redirect that question back to our deputy city manager.
Yes, we do have a really great crew, 142 Productions. They do fantastic work in marketing and promoting of the city. We have used them in bits and pieces here and there. Currently, their contract doesn't include that. Doesn't mean that we can't utilize their services for that. And Clinton and I have also been talking about a lot of different ways that we can tell the city's story far better than we currently do, to be able to, show off the city, promote the opportunities of the city, and seek new business.
Yeah, well, it's like what we did was you have over 6,000 people that work at Harris. That's our biggest group of the highest paid people in Palm Bay. We should be building on that and getting people out there. I went and interviewed people at Harris, and I got that out to them, and we brought so much stuff to that area just in that little bit of time. We stopped doing it, but I think if we start to branch back on that, I think we should market, if we can include on here, marketing our potential. Because right now, it's just like you're putting something out on the internet hoping somebody sees it. Right now we need to create the content and make sure it's getting to the right people to see the content to get them here.
Yeah, no, and I just want to take a pause here for a second, right? Site readiness is critical for economic development. I can tell, and what I'm finding the challenges are, right, is like Amazon. Let's use Amazon as a great example, the one that's on Sino Road. I wanted that place here in Palm Bay, but we did not have the capacity, the infrastructure for them. So site readiness is where the value would really be fruitful before we go on a continual basis of marketing out there. So let's focus on those things, and then give them that discretion, of course, to build on the marketing aspect. So my thoughts are site readiness is critical. We've had several companies that would have been interested, but we weren't ready for them. And that would have been really good opportunity for creating jobs. Those are my comments on that. I think we're all on the same wavelength so far. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I like the site readiness program. I think it's grossly not enough money, $1 million to $1.5 million. I think some public-private partnerships might work, or working with existing landowners and saying, hey, listen, we won't mitigate your impact fees, but we'll delay them. Invest in Palm Bay, get these sites ready, get a tenant in place, build it, then we'll charge you the impact fees once you guys start having income in place. I think permanency to be expedited. I think it's very challenging still for larger projects to come here. I think we're missing out on huge opportunity with Eastern Florida College. Why isn't that land in that area being developed? And we have Harris here. Harris has their corporate headquarters in Palm Bay, Florida. How come we don't have other industry leaders like Harris? We need to be sitting down with Harris and saying, hey, who do you guys do business with? Can we save you money by bringing your trade partners to Palm Bay? Use them as a catalyst, use them as a resource to bring these high paying jobs to Palm Bay. I think the EDC department needs to take trips to Northport, Port Charlotte, Cape Coral. They're all GDC communities. There's huge commercial development going on in all those communities. A lot of commercial shopping centers, Top Golf, a lot of just cool things. And I think a couple day trip over there, they can just write down a Rolodex of all the developers and signs that are developing there, and I can assure you they would be interested in Palm Bay. The issue that Palm Bay has is the cost to acquire land, the impact fees, and the construction. These guys can't get the rents. They can't get the rents. Viera is a special place because it's all private developers, and they've got private industry listing, selling, and building all their stuff. So does Palm Bay become a developer? And what would that even look like? But until we can get the rents up in Palm Bay, like, it's going to be really challenging. And if you can't get the rents up, you got to figure out how to get the cost down. So, mitigating impact fees or incentivizing ad valorem tax abatement, I think is a good thing. And then we have Space Florida. Like, we should be talking to Space Florida about creating special dirt, especially in the compound, investing in the compound, getting the parkway extended, and getting utilities out there.
Yeah, come on.
So, and then, forcing the hand of these developers who are building this mass residential and their developers agreements, like, you got to build your commercial early on, not after these 1,000 homes are built. The commercial's got to be in first, or somewhere early in the process. That's it.
I think that's good. I think that's good. That's great discussion. Do we have any speaker cards at this point for this item, sir?
Look. We do. We have first speaker is Bill Batten.
Bill Batten, 586 Ocean Spray Street Southwest. I understand this economic development, we have to have that plan, and that's exactly what you're talking about. Without planning, you have no roadway to get where you're going. That's what this is for, and I'm one of the individuals that did attend these workshops, so I know where you're headed. But one thing I don't see when I'm looking at it, and I watched the presentation in your agenda packet when I went through it, right, is potentially you could put some of your money and energy into the current residents' quality of life, because that's what's impacting now, right? It's the quality of life as we see it now happening in the city of Palm Bay, right? I.e., some of the things that we're dealing with is the high density and the massive traffic jams is not what we bought into when the city was just only 30 years old when I started here. That's not what we as a city was looking at. So along with the economic development, let's see if we can kind of make the quality of life good for the current residents also, instead of worrying 75 years from now when we finally do get the St. John's Heritage Parkway to loop around the city. Because if it's taken us 50 years to this point, it's going to take us even longer with the higher economic cost that it's going to be to complete the St. John's Heritage Parkway. But in the interim, if we keep building without having that infrastructure available, the quality of life for the current residents will decrease. Item number 2 with this one, I agree with your statement of no new staff until we have a plan of action. That makes sense. But when you're doing that hiring and process, I would like to see the staff be fund worthy, which means your position is placement and paycheck is dependent upon your output. So in other words, input versus output to see if you're worthy of the paycheck you're getting. Otherwise, because there is no way of measuring how you're doing in a job situation like this, it's economics. How do you know if you're doing good? Well, I would be a great economic advisor, but people aren't building. So you could pay me, but I wouldn't get anything accomplished. So it's got to be fund worthy, input versus output for the position that you fill. Thank you.
Thank you. And before you call the next speaker up, I'd like for Joni to discuss the We Venture for Councilman Langevin, please.
So We Venture Ignite 360 program is a business mentoring program. It's an existing program that We Venture has been utilizing for 5, 6, 7 years, maybe more. I only know it intimately because I'm a graduate of Ignite 360. My prior consulting firm went through this program. They utilize business mentors and coaches that help look at every aspect of your business, from how you get your clients, your marketing, your product, just a variety of different aspects. And there are various tiers to the program depending on where you are at with your business. So what the city of Palm Bay and the staff were looking at was, rather than trying to create a program, why not use a program that already exists, has already been successful, and sponsor Palm Bay businesses to participate in that program based on the tier that they fit into. The other side of that is that the businesses are vetted and monitored and overseen by WeVenture themselves. So the staff capacity in running the program is very limited, and it's a tried and true program.
Okay, so the We Venture program is a private program, and all we're doing is essentially sponsoring a business to go through that program.
Correct.
Okay.
WeVenture is funded by the US SBA, and the program and the funding, a lot of what they currently do are through the SBA. So we would just be sponsoring the business to participate in the existing program.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Ruth Koffel.
Ruth Caulfield, 935 Douglas Street. On this, one of the things that we've already identified is that there is no infrastructure, and that's what has to happen first before any new business, any new building, anything is done. Because the two businesses on Malabar Road, the Burger King and the other one, I forget, it's at Emerson and Malabar. Why was that put in without fixing Malabar Road? Because right now, we heard last council said people are taking at least 50% longer to get to work between here, Melbourne, all the way. I don't leave my house before 9 o'clock because I'm not getting out there if I don't have to. So that's the first thing that has to happen, to have citizens get happy about it and things like that. So why were they even approved if they were going to have such an impact, a negative impact on Malabar? So one of the things that accountability with the companies that come in. We have to have some type of contractual penalties for companies that violate the impact fees, such as Harris, for example. I get that they're the biggest employer in Palm Bay. You gave them a discount for coming and doing and building more. And so within that same year, they laid off 150 or so employees. So who benefited? They did. They had all the benefit. The city and the citizens did not. So this is where we don't have any accountability to the people that come into the county and to the city and do these things. So who's the victim? The citizens. All the citizens are getting is, lip service. Basically, we have at least just in Palm Bay 3 failed golf courses. A lot of lip service there. Nothing benefited the citizens on all that. So site readiness, I love that. Let's just focus on that for the next year or two, because nothing's going to happen unless we do that. And then don't give away our impact fees. Crown Point is one example. No businesses are there, yet all those buildings and all those apartments are right there. Do we have accountability that says how much vacancy is going on? How do we have all these buildings that are already full? Are these apartments, they already have a lot of vacancies there? So where's that accountability? Are we doing a survey to all those people that we gave contracts to, approvals for P&Z, and yet they might be empty? So who's coming? Who is coming to fill all that stuff up? And if they dump on Malabar Road, it's already impact. There's no room, and you'll have gridlock until 10 o'clock in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I'll ask you, Joni. There were two commercial locations that were mentioned. Those were zoned commercial. The one on Malabar Road, she mentioned the Burger King, but I think it's actually a PDQ. And then the one on Emerson and Malabar.
Talking about
Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Dairy Queen. Yeah, Dairy Queen.
And I'm not going to presume to be a traffic engineer, but
Yeah.
it's all about trip generation and whether they, need to make improvements to transportation improvements. I would imagine that DQ did what they were responsible for doing, which is paying their transportation impact fees. They likely didn't trigger from a trip generation standpoint,
Understood.
transportation improvements.
And the same with Emerson and Malabar. That's what
that
proposed Chipotle.
Correct.
Okay, same thing. Okay, thank you. So I know they were zoned commercial was my point, and all they did was go through land development since it was already zoned.
Correct. They went through
Okay.
the administrative site plan
All right.
process.
Thank you, ma'am.
Susan Conley.
Susan Connolly, 3901 Dixie Highway. Some of what I'm going to say is repetitive from people who have already talked, but I think it doesn't hurt to hear it a second time. My first comment is that I was at that workshop for the economic development, and what stood out strongly was we are not ready for big business yet. Our capacity, as you said, Mayor, our infrastructure is not here. It doesn't make sense to bring in business without having a wonderful community, decent roads that people and businesses can travel on, good schools. People are suffering, citizens are suffering on the burden of overdevelopment right now without proper infrastructure. The second thing I wanted to say was that I think getting back to accountability and Ruth Kauffold is we have got numerous developments in process. Part of it is the mixed use where they are supposed to develop commercial. Has anybody checking up? Are these developers completing with the commercial once all these big buildings go up? If not, somebody needs to go out and make sure the development is completed before they're approved for more development. We do not need more family housing until we get, as Councilman Jaffe was saying, we got to start focusing on the commercial first. The next thing I wanted to say was that I think the tax abatements and things, let's develop internally. Let's develop locally. Give businesses a chance here, small businesses. I'm sure there are developers that want a chance. Instead of giving 4.3 million to a big company like Harris, give 50,000 to a small company that has. We've got to have the people and the willingness here in Palm Bay. And I'm going to run out of time. Well, so thank you.
Thank you. So, Madam Joni, I think there may be a misconception on the city giving finances, the tax abatement program. Could you just briefly discuss how that's incentive based?
Yes, so we currently have ad valorem tax abatements for L3 Harris for their HTC site on Palm Bay Road. That one is about to expire. We have two others for L3 Harris. That's Project Leo and Project SAMT. And we have an ad valorem tax abatement for Rogue Valley Micro Devices. And the city enters into an agreement with these entities. They're required to perform based on the application that they submitted in terms of the number of new jobs they'll create, the amount of capital investment, and the average annual wages of those jobs. And every year they must submit an annual report. In fact, Clinton and I just discussed this today. They'll be submitting their annual reports, and those must be submitted to the city, then submitted to the property appraisers, and that'll come before all of you in March.
And if they don't meet the agreement?
If they don't meet the agreement, council will likely take the action that you all took back in, or former council took back with Midwest Dental Arts, where you have the ability to recoup the ad valorem taxes abated in prior years.
And so we've set that precedence. If you don't create those jobs, you're not getting that abatement.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make that clear. Next speaker.
Meredith, I got one last speaker card. excuse me, it came in, it says agenda item 1, but under a heading that says procurement. So just want to confirm with Sandra Sullivan, or you want to speak on
Economic
development?
Good evening and happy new year, Sandra Sullivan. So
Sandra Sullivan, where do you reside now?
South Patrick Shore, sorry, District 4. So I'm here for the next item. So just as an aside, in moving up here from South Florida, my son went to FAU as a 12-year-old, did 21 university credits. He's pretty brilliant. And I would ask you to take a look at the tech runway at FAU. Really impressive facility for generating an incubation of tech businesses. And it's a combination of the resources to get new businesses underway. In addition, in also in partnership with the local university. So you could do it here, like with Eastern Central College or FIT, and they have all this tech available, 3D printers, and they're doing robotics and all this other stuff. It's really incredible. The other thing I was going to mention is I'm just very encouraging to hear about the accountability on your tax abatement program, because the EDC tax abatement presentation was done by Tabaya on that. The average size business was over 36,000 employees, big business. Remember, small business is the lifeblood of the economy. And 85% of them failed, with a net generation of minus 404 jobs over the 10-year period. So it's very important to have that accountability aspect. And then the last thing I want to mention is I've been doing a deep dive into Space Florida, of course, the space and the problems up there with sewage. I've come to find out, surprisingly, that on these federal lands, no property tax is paid. Well, you go, oh, it's federal lands. But under federal law, anytime that you lease federal lands to private entities, the local jurisdiction is required, has the right to collect taxes, which raises some questions. So the reason I bring this up is I think we have a disparity, in an equitable, competitive environment between that area up there and other areas of Brevard. And I think the playing field needs to be leveled, which is why there's both the Military Leasing Act and these other federal laws that state that when you lease federal lands, they pay property tax to the local jurisdiction. Something to consider to level the playing field so that more tech business, more space businesses might come down here as well and share that wealth, because we have a really exciting Brevard County with Space Coast. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. So, Council, so right now what we're looking at is giving direction. A comment was made about small business, and I that's that we venture to make small businesses that they don't fail. And they certainly do. We Venture certainly does a deep dive, like our deputy city manager stated. I think we've discussed pretty much where we're all at. I do agree the site readiness, but I will add to this discussion. I think I've been here 36 years. It'll soon be 37. And this city was founded as a bedroom community, and that has been problematic since that inception, because if we all lived, worked, and played right here within the borders of the city of Palm Bay, we could slowly move through instead of always going up north, because most of us are going up north to go find employment. Wouldn't it be great if we were all just spread out, much like Viera, with job opportunities? I will also add that we have a great light industrial manufacturing company here that we tend to forget, and it's space. And these individuals, what they do is they manufacture parts for our F-35s. They manufacture parts for our Department of Defense, for our Navy brothers and sisters that are currently serving. So it's really interesting that we overlook that part of a blessing that Palm Bay does have some of the rich businesses that a lot of people don't know about. And that's the type of industry we want to attract to our city. We just need to get that site readiness. So what direction would you like for us to take, Mr. Morgan, regarding this action item? Do we
Yeah,
have enough discussion over it?
I really appreciate the discussion from each and every member of the council as well as the public. I think in terms of the consensus of the items that were discussed last summer, my take is that there's consensus other than for new hires, which I would concur with that analysis. And in addition, there were some other ideas that members have come up with that I think were very good. So I'm feeling fairly confident that we have the direction we were seeking, and I think it was a very fruitful discussion myself.
Yeah, if I just make
Yeah,
a comment.
uh,
So
I'd like to just reemphasize, we're all in agreement with the new hires. It's just not time to pull that trigger, right?
Yeah.
Carry on.
I'm that, and for me, I'm not excited about the We Venture program. I'm a small business owner. You know, I don't think that the city should be paying businesses to learn how to do business. So that's just where I'm at on it.
Okay.
Everything else, though, I'm in agreement on.
Okay. How many folks have taken advantage of that program, Palm Bay's, Joni, Miss Giancarlo Brown?
I don't know. I'd have to get with Catherine Redloff to see if she has those numbers.
Okay. We're willing to, I'm good with it right now because I have seen success from it. I know someone specifically that benefited from that, a Palm Bay business. So I'm still, I'd like to see the numbers. Kind of like when we asked for the numbers regarding our veteran service officer. And we got substantially outstanding numbers for that. So I'd like to see the numbers, but for now we've got an individual on council that feels that that's probably not worthy. And I may agree with them once the numbers come in, but at least let's give it an opportunity to figure out what the numbers are, how many Palm Bayers are using, and maybe we could reappropriate some of that funding somewhere else. Is that cool? All right.
Yeah, I'm willing to, yeah.
All right. So thank you. Anything else? Any other
No,
discussion?
thank you, Mayor.
Is that enough, Mr. Morgan?
Yes, I think that was
Okay, so you don't
very
need anything in
beneficial.
a motion?
I don't.
Okay.
I think again,
All right.
we're taking some good notes, and again, just what some of the council and then the public comments, I think were also quite.
Outstanding. So before we go on to new business item number 2, I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. I'm going to call our meeting back to order. Ladies and gentlemen, let's settle down. I'm calling this meeting back to order. So we are now on new business item number 2. And before I toss it over to you, Councilman Langevin, I just wanted to share, is Councilman Johnson still on the line, by the way? Councilman Johnson? Did we lose him?
No, the line is still on.
Councilman Johnson, are you there?
There you are. Yes, sir.
Okay. I just wanted, we're about to discuss new business item number 2, and I'm going to kick it over to Councilman Langevin. But before I did, I wanted to share how you discussed this with previous council, probably right after the court decision, sometime in October, if I remember correctly, or within that time frame.
Yes, sir. No, that is correct. That's a great memory. Yes, sir. Man.
Yes, sir. And I know that we were about to receive, we knew we were going to get at least 2 new council members. So now is part of the discussion. So just wanted to inform the public that we did discuss this. I believe it was under your reports back in the day.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
So I'm all for this discussion, sir. So thank you again.
Yes, sir. Councilman Langevin, thank you. Thank you for bringing this up because this is an item that we were looking at previous council.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there's been it's one of those items that it's going national, right? And so a lot of people are asking about it. I'll be honest with you, on the campaign trail, I've talked a lot of it. We all knocked a lot of doors and probably talked to over 1,000, residents. And it was the standard stuff. It was infrastructure, it was public safety, and it was jobs. But then I would say the fourth most brought up item was fluoride in the water, which I was like, that's kind of shocked that it's the fourth item. So it was one of the first things I looked into after the election. This is something I've been working on behind the scenes with our utilities director and the city manager for about a month now. And then there was some interesting responses too. So before I start talking about making my case, etc., if it's all right with you, Mayor, I'd like to bring the utilities director up and explain where the city's actually at right now with this issue.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good brief, but I'd like to ask Mr. Morgan to bring him up.
Be happy to bring you our outstanding utilities director.
Thank you, sir. And I think that's a great idea, Councilman Langevin, to give a little bit of our history up to now.
So for the last several years, our fluoride feeding systems have been down. A couple of years ago, we began making steps to rebuild that infrastructure. Several months ago, staff, when I first got here, talked about wanting to actually convert side topic, a different chemical, to use some of that infrastructure that we were putting in to feed LAS. We talked with city management. Can we pause this for now? Implementing, going to continuing to feed fluoride, and there was a pause that was placed there. So presently, since 2016 and 2017 in our 2 plants, we've not been feeding fluoride. When we did feed, it was 60 and 70 pounds a day at each of those plants for about $30,000 a year. Any additional information you'd like, be happy to share.
Yeah, you said several years ago. I'd like to get a little deeper into that conversation. The years the plants went down, or the
January in 2016, the North plant's fluoride system failed, and in 2017, the South plant's fluoride system failed.
And so since 2016 and 2017, respectively, we have not provided fluoride in our water system.
That's correct. There is naturally occurring fluoride. We measure that sometimes between 0.25 milligrams per liter to 0.3 milligrams per liter. So there is some naturally occurring.
Naturally occurring.
Yes,
understood. Okay, Councilman Langevin, any questions now?
So I don't have any questions of the utilities director, but I would just say that I appreciate all the work that you've done with me over the past month on this, and then our deputy city manager Juliet also did a phenomenal job, and I'm sure there was other staff behind the scenes that I didn't talk to directly. So just if you could thank them for me as well for any work that they put into it.
Yeah, Mr. Belton, you're not dismissed yet.
Mayor, I had a question too.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to harp a little bit on this, just for the public to understand, right? So we were going forward with gathering equipment and perhaps even a grant at one particular point.
Yes, sir.
Regarding this fluoridation, this equipment. However, now if we decide to shift, right? If this council decides to not add any fluoridation into the water, that equipment we could still use, that investment we could still use.
That's right. It will not be a lost investment. It'll actually, we can convert it to feeding liquid ammonia instead of gaseous ammonia, which is much safer for those who are in and around it in its operation. Gas ammonia, if it gets into the atmosphere, could burn your lungs, cause a lot of irritation of the skin and of the eyes. And liquid ammonia is not nearly as dangerous. You could spill it on you and it's not a problem. You may have some skin irritation, but nothing like you would with gaseous ammonia.
And what is the benefit for it being used in our water system?
Well, we add ammonia to chlorine to create chloramines to extend the life of our disinfectant into the system. So the ammonia in combination with chlorine creates chloramines for disinfection.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that explanation. Deputy Mayor.
So those are two of the questions you asked, or questions I had about LAS. To extend a life in the system, does it mean it's highly concentrated at the first house compared to the last house?
Great question. So chlorine is much more effective in disinfection, but it doesn't last as long as chloramines. So when you add ammonia to chlorine, the amount of time that stays in your system is extended. So the strength of it does dissipate from the plant to the outermost parts of the system. But we use chloramines because it lasts longer than just regular chlorine gas or liquid chlorine would last.
Does that satisfy your question? I believe we have a few speaker cards. Mr. Bowden, don't go very far because I have a feeling we'll be using you to speak again.
First speaker is Katie Bernard.
Hi, members of the council. My name is Katie Bernard, and I live at 272 Wilton Ave, Southwest Palm Bay. I stand before you to challenge the reasoning behind dosing our public water supply with chemicals like fluoride and chlorine, both of which are considered GRAS, GRS, generally recognized as safe in small amounts. But what does GRAS really mean? A company can conduct its own research, compile findings, and submit them to organizations like the WHO and the FDA as proof of safety without facing meaningful scrutiny. Let's look at Monsanto, a company notorious for falsifying data. Their history with misleading advertising, particularly with Roundup, highlights the consequences of powerful entities manipulating public information. When the truth is compromised, public trust is shattered, and the results are devastating. Fluoride is often praised for its dental benefits, but excessive amounts of fluoride causes fluorosis of the bones and teeth. What's less publicized is how fluoride exposure is linked to reduced IQ in children. I distinctly remember going to the dentist as a child where I received a bubblegum flavored fluoride treatment in a mouth guard. I was told to hold it in my mouth for 3 minutes, unaware of the sublingual absorption of this toxin was harming my brain. If people are concerned about their teeth, they can choose to use fluoride products. What alarms me is that toothpaste containing fluoride has a warning to call poison control if swallowed in small amounts. This raises a fundamental question about safety and informed consent.
I, for one, do not consent to being a filter for an industrial byproduct labeled as fluoride. Now let's talk about chlorine. It's a toxic chemical that we are all exposed to daily. When you take a shower, a hot shower, the steam you inhale contains chlorine from the water. If the shower lasts longer than 5 minutes, you're essentially in a gas chamber. For a simple experiment, take 2 glasses of tap water, stick your hand in one of them for 1 minute, then test both. You'll find the water your hand touched has less fluoride and chlorine than the untouched glass. And yet, we bathe our children in tubs filled with gallons of water containing these chemicals several times a week and let them swim in pools. How can that be considered healthy? Chlorine is a known hormone disruptor. I can go on and on about this, but I don't have time beyond the 3 minutes. I urge you to conduct your own deep dive research and make decisions that prioritize public health and safety for yourselves, for your family, and future generations. Help us to become healthier citizens by taking the crap out of our water supply that isn't needed and is just killing us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Pat Dalpra.
Pat Delper, 410 Georges Avenue, Northeast. I'm not going to reiterate what she just said. She said all the right things. I'm playing devil's advocate right now because I have a family member that wanted me to. So that's the only reason I'm up here. He agrees that fluoride should be in the water because he feels like it prevents tooth decay. I tried to reason with him and say, no, it doesn't. But anyway, he feels like we should be looking at all the chemicals in the water and not just chloride, but there's many other chemicals that end up in the water. So before you guys make a decision, I think there should be more research on whether or not to continue with this. I don't agree with fluoride in the water and the chlorine and all the other chemicals. Really, we are destroying ourselves. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Warren Edwards.
Mr. Edwards.
Good evening. Dr. Warren Edwards, 798 Thrasher Drive in Rockledge. And I am a former resident of Palm Bay, and my daughter went to Palm Bay High. I am a dentist of 47 years. I have practiced in Florida as a dentist more than 20 years. I supported fluoridation in my early part of my career because that's what I was trained in. And as a matter of fact, in the town of Portsmouth, Rhode Island, where when I was the head of the local dental society, I successfully got fluoride in half of the town that wasn't fluoridated. And I was very proud of that. And the fluoridation opponents, I thought, were quacks. I moved here and I learned that I was toxic to mercury in my own body, which again, I was trained was safe when I was a dentist, and I placed a lot of mercury fillings early in my career. And that started me on a journey of learning about toxicity, certainly how to reduce my own toxicity. And in that journey, I've actually become a doctor of naturopathy, which is not recognized in Florida as a specialty, but I've done a lot of training. And fluoride is a toxin. It's a neurotoxin. And it's clear. It's not needed in the human body at all. And it only affects the developing enamel in the first 8 years of life. After that, anyone that's drinking fluoridated water is getting fluoride in their body, in their thyroid, in their bones, in their pineal gland, and it affects so many reactions. Fluoride is the most reactive element in the periodic table of elements. So it should not be put in water. It's actually mass medication is what it is. It's being forced upon people. And Europe does not fluoridate their water, and Palm Bay shouldn't either. And, you know, there's a lot of science, and recently, there's been a big court decision that has gone on for 5 years where the EPA was sued and they lost. The judge said that the evidence is clear that this is something that we should really reconsider, and hopefully the whole country is going to remove fluoride from its water. And I would be proud of Palm Bay, and I have a lot of patients that live in Palm Bay, to go ahead and get rid of it, and you're going to save money and not having to fluoridate. And if you don't know it, the fluoridation that they're using is this hydrofluorosilicic acid, which comes from the toxic, it's a toxic waste product of the smokestacks in Florida's phosphate industry, and it's loaded with other crap, and they're putting that in the water system. We'd have to ask the director if that's what they use here, but that's what I know Melbourne is using. And I'm out of time, but thank you very much for your time, and I'm welcome to answer any questions because I'm quite knowledgeable on this subject.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker.
Dr. Kevin Hahn.
Dr. Kevin Hahn, 132 Rainbow Street, Merritt Island. I'm a dentist of 20 years, not quite the long distinguished career as my associate there. I was taught the same way in dental school, that fluoride was the saving grace of our society, and we were supposed to have it in our water, and it was a public health, one of the top 5 public health recommendations and successes that we've had. Since dental school 20 some years ago, I have also come to learn that it is toxic, not necessary for our bodies, and the reports that were out saying that it was actually useful in reducing childhood and adult decay were not as accurate as they were portrayed. The rate of decayed, missing, and filled teeth, which is what a standard that we go by to determine whether something is being successful or not, or how a community is doing dental health related, was going down prior to the inception of fluoride being introduced into our water treatment systems. Most of Western countries do not fluoridate, and their rate of decayed, missing, and filled teeth went down at the same rate as the United States has, and it has maintained the same level as we have. Towns, municipalities that have removed fluoride from the water systems have not seen an increase in decayed teeth. Adults, to be clear, I'm not anti-fluoride. I'm anti-fluoride in the water treatment system that we have in our municipal supply that we give to people. It is a medication, and it should not be a blanket treatment. I use fluoride in my practice, but I use it very targeted, direct healthcare related, not a, this is a one size fits all. So it should not be given to our kids, because they're the most at risk and harmed by it. In the organs that my colleague already discussed, we see a lot in my practice of fluorosis of teeth, which is a mottling, white, chalky, yellow appearance of teeth. And if we see it in teeth, where else is that in the body? That's just something that we can see. So I would highly recommend that you continue the practice of non-fluoridating. It'll save you money. Use that money towards something that'll be more beneficial. Teach people how to brush their teeth and have a better diet.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Ms. Hahn. I didn't want to butcher your first name. I'm sorry.
It's Maya.
Maya.
Thank you. Thank you. Maya Hahn, 132 Rainbow Street, Merritt Island. I am a speech language pathologist. I'm an autism specialist. I'm the president of a national advocacy and charity organization called REACT, Research and Education for Autistic Children's Treatment. I also own Encore Speech and Wellness, serving patients throughout Brevard County, including the city of Palm Bay. And I am here to advocate for the thousands of children and unborn children within the drinking water system of Palm Bay. Thank you for having the bravery to have the discussion on water fluoridation. It has been a long time coming for this nation, and it's wonderful to see this municipality who has finally considered the potential adverse events that can happen through ingesting fluoride and it can have on the health, and not just including the positives about fluoridation. It is a difficult thing to stand up against a long-held practice, especially when you've heard from experts for decades that said fluoridation is one of the greatest public health actions a city can take to prevent dental decay. As a dental family, my husband being a dentist, we used to be pro fluoridation, and we did not know what we know now. I wish I had known. Our own children have neurological disabilities and also have dental fluorosis from ingesting fluoride. So instead of making their teeth stronger, it has made them brittle and discolored, much like many children across the United States. We simply blindly followed oligarchy and what the ADA and the federal regulators told us. I wish I knew then what I know now. So thank you. Thank you for doing your due diligence and for asking the questions on what the scientific evidence now says about ingesting fluoride. The science is now clear. Fluoride in ingestion, fluoride is a neurotoxin, and especially in ingestion. Even the EPA's optimal fluoridization water levels of 0.7 milligrams per liter are dangerous and pose an unreasonable risk of reducing the IQ of children. This conclusion, among with many other concerning health hazards, has been reported by the National Toxicology Program after a meta-analysis was conducted of all the decades of scientific research on fluoride. On September 24th of this year, the federal court ruled against the EPA, confirming the real and present dangers to public health, especially the brains of children when fluoride is added to the water. And so I hope you have listened to Surgeon General Ladapo when he warned Florida municipalities saying, and I quote, "It is public health malpractice with the information we now have to continue adding fluoride to water," unquote.
Thank you.
And I'm out of time. Thank you so much. Please consider this resolution that I posted to the city with all the evidence in it.
Next speaker.
Next speaker is Stefan Hartman.
Hello, my name is Stefan Hartman, 2196 Colony Drive, Melbourne, Florida. I'm a PA and owner of Iron Direct Primary Care, a medical practice here in Brevard County. In the course of my practice, I've identified a lot of hormonal disruptions, and this has led me to do my own retrospective practice analysis at my office. We're publishing a study soon. We've analyzed the concentrations of iodine, fluoride, and bromide in people's bodies. And we can distribute the papers to them. Of the 179 patients, we found 50% of the patients are, by WHO criteria, deficient in iodine. Some are severely deficient, most are moderately deficient, but no one is optimally sufficient in iodine. And we have 1,000 patients, so this is approximately like 20% of our population that we did test. They're all deficient in iodine. No one has enough iodine in the body. This is important because iodine is the least electronegative element in the periodic table. So we have fluoride at the very top. This means it has more affinity towards binding to the tissues. So it is a competitor towards iodine. So you can take a little iodine in your supplement, but it never will reach to the target organs, meaning your thyroid, your brain, for the pituitary for growing children. So this is why we may be seeing a lot of these hormonal disruptions and problems, as Maya mentioned, with developmental disabilities. And it's because iodine is never reaching the target organ in the body, which is, thyroid being one of the biggest ones. So we do have an iodine deficiency epidemic. We don't need to be fluoridating the water, adding competitors. We should be supplementing everybody with iodine, actually, to try to balance out the toxic halides. So just get something real and concrete here that we're seeing in Brevard County that's happening right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Next speaker, Richard Webb.
You know what? It feels really good to be able to come up here and thank you guys for being so prescient, and your predecessors, and thank the city staff. Congratulations to all of you for recognizing and being forward thinking and eliminating the toxic fluoride. My first question was the same as yours, Mike. What happens when you put a lot more chlorine in at the plant in order to have it work when it gets to the far end on the western side of
Try to
town?
stay on the mic, sir.
And it led me to the question, so why don't we put in interim injection stations along the way so that it balances out? Turns out your guys have done that. They're already working on the first of the injection plants. You guys have a good staff here. And not only that, but they're looking for ways to reduce the cost to the city. They've rerouted the water supply to keep the water in the pipes for a shorter amount of time so that you don't have this problem. But here's what happens. The chloramines that they're putting in can't be taken out by regular charcoal filtration. So you're going to be ingesting more chloramines. For all of us that have water filters and so forth, short of RO, I've got RO, but you won't be able to get rid of those chloramines, and that's going to be a problem. So I started looking into what are the other solutions. Did you know chlorine dioxide is being used in some towns very successfully, cheaper? And I'm going to send you a pile of information so that the staff can take a look at substituting chlorine dioxide, which is actually good for you. And I think Dr. Martingano is going to go into that a little bit more. But you'll have plenty to work on. And again, thank you for being diligent.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Richard Nink. Richard Nink. Oh, next speaker.
Hello, my name is Richard Nink, 3035 Gentle Breezes Court, Melbourne. I'm here today because I work and play in Palm Bay, and I want to make it clear and known that I don't want Palm Bay to go forward and fluoridate the water. You haven't done it for years. I think that's fantastic. I personally grew up in a municipality, Long Island, New York, that did not fluoridate the water. And I had 0 cavities growing up as a kid, 0 cavities. I only got my first 1 or 2 cavities after I moved here to Florida. Imagine that. And it wasn't in Palm Bay. Fluoride is a poison. You heard that. I don't want it in the drinking water. I can't spit it out. For brushing your teeth, we know there's fluoride in the toothpaste. You can spit that out. You could do a real good job. You can rinse and get it all out. There's even warnings on here. You've heard it. And, you know, I brought the little samples I get from the dentist every year. I collect them. I never use them. This one's in the box. This one's still got the silver cap on it. But I said, you know, today, man, dang, they're useful today. So I looked at all the warnings in there. They are on there. You know, don't swallow. And pea-size amount. What the heck is this? You know, that doesn't sound good to me. Then I look at the box that I use, the toothpaste that I actually use that's not fluoridated, Dr. Sheffield's. I've been using this for years. I'm looking for the warning on here. It's got to be on here somewhere. Where is it? Where is it? There's no warnings on here. None whatsoever. Why could that be? Oh, well, look at that. No fluoride in here. No artificial flavors and colors. Well, they never really warn that. The fluoride. I think that's it. No warnings. But here, these little things, and the dentist is giving them to me, and they're full of warnings. I mean, that's a clue. I mean, we're smart people. Let's keep doing the right thing. Let's not add it in. And you know, we have our new our Florida Surgeon General, Joseph Ladapo. He's put out an advisory that municipalities should not be doing it, should not be adding, should be taking it out. It's already out. I mean, this is fantastic. This is an opportunity for Palm Bay to actually lead and make a statement that we're not going to put it in. You know, Palm Bay's had it out. We're going to use the infrastructure for something else, something that's beneficial to keep the water pure and sanitized, and not add poisons and not poison our residents and those who work and play in Palm Bay. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Sandra Sullivan.
Can you call the next few?
After Sandra Sullivan, it'll be Lynn Hartman and then Sal Martin.
Lynn, you're next.
All right.
Carry on. Man,
Right.
we're still in a meeting.
Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. So kudos to you guys for bringing this forward and being a leader in Brevard to bring this to your council as a result of this landmark case. So I want to just read a couple things from an article on that case. Experts agree. The EPA officials testified that fluoride is a neurotoxic, meaning it can cause damage to the brain and the nervous system. The question the judge ruled on is whether concentrations currently considered safe for public health pose health threats. So the U.S. Public Health Service recommends an optimal fluoride concentration of 0.7 milligrams per liter according to the 2015 rule. That optimal level poses an unreasonable risk of reduced IQ in children. That's the landmark case. So thank you for bringing this forward. I want to mention that, you know, as some of them mentioned, where we get this fluoride from is from the scrubbers from the phosphate industry is actually a byproduct, a waste product that they needed to find some place to put it. It's not organic fluoride. I'll give you an example. I live up there in South Patrick Shores. We have a lot of arsenic contamination. Now, arsenic, when it is organic, is perfectly harmless. But when it's inorganic, it's a carcinogen. So it has a lot to do with the type of fluoride too. So there have been a lot of research on this for many years, and activists have talked about this. I went to the Melbourne meeting in 2019 to advocate for them to take fluoride out, and hopefully they will as a result of this. So a gentleman came, and he came to that meeting, and he had written a book, and he wrote that fluoride is incompatible with the human biochemistry. It is harmful at very low levels, and references scientific literature. It says nature protects living things from fluoride, and he mentions even our breast milk filters out fluoride. Nature has developed a way of protecting living things from fluoride. The level of fluoride in a mother's milk is 0.004 parts per million. The mother protects, you know, the body takes it out. But when you're bottle fed, it's 0.7 to 1.2 parts per million, much more. So what he wrote in his book, one wonders what an increase in exposure to fluoride such as occurs in bottle-fed infants may mean for the development of the brain and other organs. And then, yeah, I had one other article. Anyway, so thank you for your leadership on this issue, and hopefully this will be a permanent decision to remove it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lynn Hartman, 325 Banyan Way, Melbourne Beach, Florida. I came tonight to support my friends, and wow, that is really interesting hearing the dentist now finding out that the training was that everyone should go get this fluoride. I don't know what the dose would be because some people drink a lot of water, other people drink milk or orange juice that wouldn't have the same dose of fluoride in it And as that nice lady said, some people breastfeed their children for years. Others would put the fluoridated water in the formula. So once again, what is the dose anyone is getting? I work at my son's primary care, and I'm so interested in supplements. And if I thought that getting fluoride down to my toes and my fingers would be that I should ingest it would be good for me, I'd be experimenting with it, with what dose do I need, not what dose do other people need. And but it's not healthy, as a couple of the people were talking about, that it lowers IQ in children. Oh my gosh, what we parents wouldn't do for an extra IQ point in our kids. I mean, one expert noted that they don't fluoridate water, and I remember I raised my children in Berlin and in Italy, and yeah, we just drank the water out of the tap in Berlin. It was wonderful water, and yeah, I don't think any of the kids had any cavities. And I remember my first child had a cavity in college here in the United States. So if a politician came to my door and said, what do you think about the fluoride in the water? I'm like, I spend a fortune here at Publix. I go to the aisle, it says water, and there's flavored water, and there's bubbly water, and none of it has extra fluoride, and I have to pay for that. So I wouldn't have to pay for a water because the fluoride would be out of it. And that $30,000 a year you spend on fluoride, you could buy the dog for the policewoman with that money. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Sal Martin, again. Got him.
I'm Dr. Sal Martingano, Indialantic, Florida. And by the way, I printed some scientific evidence. You should at least take a copy of that if you can. I've been studying the effects of fluoridation on human species for over 20 years. My research began in 1984 with the onset of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The Journal of Environmental Health in 1992 stated that the higher proportion of artificially fluoride water, you will get a higher prevalence of ADD. That got my attention. Fluoridation disrupts the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis in the brain. Fluoride interferes with the production of neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, resulting in the hypothalamus not synchronizing with environmental needs. The reason is that fluoride is the most unstable element in the periodic table and can easily bond with stable elements, causing them to dysfunction. Now, if you fast forward, 90% of the fluoride added to the water supply comes from pharmaceutical-grade fluorosilicic acid, a major byproduct of fertilizer industry patented by Monsanto. Fluoride resists metabolic and natural breakdown, perfect for fertilizer and weed killers that remains in the soil, on plants, and in food eaten by animals, which are later consumed by humans. Fluoride is also a major byproduct of the aluminum industry that must be disposed of by the FDA, CDC, EPA, and so on. Disposal of fluoride is expensive and always presents health issues. Lobbying efforts by mega corporations like Monsanto and Alcoa have convinced the government municipalities that fluoride reduces dental cavities and is safe to put in drinking water. But all scientific studies, most of them were actually paid for by Monsanto, so it didn't come from scientific evidence. And in conclusion, the ADA is allowed to use fluoride toothpaste with the warning, as you heard before, keep out of the reach of children under 6. If you accidentally swallow more than used for brushing, call poison control immediately. Nice. 98% of Western Europe has rejected fluoride in water supplies, and long-term studies have shown no scientific difference between cavities in children with or without fluoride. The journal Lancet reported that fluoride is less toxic than arsenic, but more toxic than lead, and all 3 substances are illegal to dump in lakes, rivers, and streams, yet it's somehow okay to put fluoride in our drinking water and toothpaste. So where's the logic? We ban plastic straws for environmental reasons, but use our bodies as waste disposal units for highly toxic substances to reduce cavities. I urge this committee to follow the money trail and make the right choice in keeping fluoride out of our water system. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Next speaker.
The next and last speaker card is Ruth Caulfield.
Ruth Caulfield, 935 Douglas Street. I'm not going to reiterate what everybody else said, okay? Because now we're seeing that clean water means not dirty or not added to. So we need to strive for that in our city and in our county even, because all of these studies that have been done about the lagoon and all of the stuff happening in our waterways between Volusia and all up and down our East Coast have to be resolved, because we've done enough studies and wasted a lot of money and all that crap. So this is just the beginning, really, because at the end of the day, what precedent are you setting? This is what we need to understand. I clean my drinking water, have since I arrived in Brevard County, because it's not clean. It's not safe. So I use a cleaner. I filter all of my water. We used to have a saltwater filtration system. I just use, the zero water, and I have zero stuff in it. So that's what we need to strive for. Zero stuff in our water. Don't add anything to it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That concludes our speaker cards, Deputy Mayor. Okay, council, I need a motion. Councilman.
Well, I would like to make a motion to go ahead and proceed with making it official that we will no longer add fluoride to the water, and that we will, if we decide not to do that, I would like to, there's another half of the staff notes that talks about transitioning the fluoride containers to liquid ammonia. I would like that to be part of the motion as well.
That's perfect. That's part of that infrastructure.
Yeah.
That you want. So is that part of the motion?
Yeah. So I'm going to put both in the motion.
Okay. So I'm going to, Councilman Johnson.
Yes, Mayor.
Are you on the line? Okay.
I was just going to make a second. I don't feel we need to change. I was good with Councilman Langevin's original portion of the motion of just taking the fluoride out, but I'm in support either way.
You're what now? I didn't catch that.
I was looking to make a second to the motion, Mayor.
Okay, so you're seconding the motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I got a motion by Councilman Langevin, seconded by Councilman Johnson. Councilman Langevin, any further discussion before I give the mic to Councilman Hammer?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, wow, thank you all for coming and speaking. Just all transparency with the council. I asked 2 people to come here. So everybody else, I didn't know they were coming. I think it says a lot that there are individuals that came to speak on behalf of this that are dentists. But more importantly, in the past, when this has come up in other cities, a lot of dentists will come out against it. Obviously, that didn't happen here. But most of those dentists will come out and they'll say, well, according to CDC guidelines, we really should. And they haven't studied it themselves. We've had multiple people come speak here today that have conducted their own research, which is what, true medical professionals and scientists are supposed to do. So I think that speaks volumes. Obviously, we get to make the decision as a city. We don't, because we have home rule, but I do think that it carries a lot of weight that the Surgeon General of the state of Florida is recommending that we don't put fluoride in our water. If you look at the state right now, just in the past month, multiple cities have pulled it, and the most recent city is one of our sister cities, Port St. Lucie. So I think this is the right move moving forward. The main thing for me, though, is it was mentioned in public comment, but we are force medicating our entire population if we do this. And that's just not right. It's a personal choice. If you want fluoride, go buy fluoride products and use them. If you don't. With any other medical decision, the government doesn't make that for you. You make that for yourself. And so ultimately, I think it's incredibly important that we haven't been doing it, luckily, but it's incredibly important that we move forward with this motion and continue to not do it. But also staff needs that guidance of what we actually want. So, I'll yield.
Thank you. There is a form of decorum in these proceedings, and I would encourage each and every one to act accordingly. At this point, I'd like to ask Councilman Johnson, you seconded the motion, your comment, sir.
Nothing else to add, Mayor. I'm good, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Ham?
I would like to start by thanking Chandler and thanking our utilities director for spearheading this. As a candidate, us four got to speak to thousands and thousands of people, and a lot of it was roads, a lot of it was safety, but I had an overwhelming amount of people talk about the fluoride in the water. And the fact that we have this many come out here to discuss it, that's amazing. That's what our job is here, to represent what the public wants. And I just have to say, I thank everybody that came out to discuss this. As being the largest city in Brevard, I think we're a leader. We need to be a leader. And I think if we make this action, I think it might spark results in the whole county. But I thank you both for stepping up to this. It was on my list, and I'm really glad we're spearheading it instead of a reaction. Because one of the things that we've always discussed was we've always been a reactive city. We're not proactive. And I think this is going to be something that makes us proactive, and we're going to be a leader in this, and I'm 200% for it.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for everyone for being here tonight. My stepmom's a dentist. You know, I grew up in a dentistry household and under fluoride treatment, and my brothers and I all the same thing. And she's been retired now for a number of years, and of course I called her for her advice, and she was for fluoride. The fact that it's naturally occurring in our water, I think it makes it harder to manage how much we're inputting and how that's controlled in other dietary food, fish, shellfish, and fluoride in other areas. And I'm a believer of like people making their own decisions. So I'm against the city putting fluoride in the water. I'd like Councilman Langevin, if you want to amend his motion just to discuss the fluoride tonight and pause on the LAS, because that was the first I've heard of it. And would like to certainly do more research on it and find out what the costs associated to the equipment and the facilities, and like to learn more about the chlorine dioxide that another professional admitted tonight. So
So I think if I understood Mr. Bowden correctly, they're currently using gas, and that is truly an opportunity of it being so harmful to those that are applying it.
They're handling it.
So that leads me to caution us on not including both, because if we're going to wind up continuing that practice, right? Maybe we could discuss it later, but right now the motion is to include both. I do hear where you're going. It's just that infrastructure is already in place, and they could turn key to assist. If you want to remove it down range, we'll go down that path. But the area of caution is the dangerous zone for those that are applying it, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I believe the infrastructure is broken currently.
Yeah.
So there's a cost to repair the infrastructure. So
Yeah,
curious.
it's about 60% completed is the intel I got.
I don't know any of this, right? I'm 2 months onto the job, so I don't know a lot of these details. So
Yeah, I think from the information I received is we're 60% almost completed. That's why it was important that we have the discussion regarding fluoridation because they were about to turn key on this. And from what I understand, in a matter of weeks, they could use that same infrastructure towards the liquid ammonia.
Understood.
So that's the area of caution. So here are my comments, right? We had a doctor here that said he was from Long Island. I was born and raised in New York City. And during the summertime, the fire hydrants were open on a continual basis. And that's where most of us children were able to drink fluoridated water on a continual basis. So this is why I have such a great smile. But that being said, I am so overwhelmed by the honesty of our dentistry, our professionals. And I also have reached out to dentists within our own community. And there have been many studies done regarding this. And moreover, like you said, the state surgeon general, Joseph Ladapo, he recommends, this is something that improving the IQ is one thing, but to actually have a neuropsychiatric risk to our children, that is devastating. That is overwhelmingly devastating because I would never want to put a child's future in danger. And that's exactly what I feel it is about. That's the decision that we're actually making. Along with other dentists, I thought fluoride was good. As I said, I was raised with a good smile. I was grateful for the dentists that helped me obtain, without braces, by the way. Just want to publicly say that. But I'm in support of this, the way the motion is, because we do have an infrastructure and it's turnkey and we could save another life. So all that said, I know that, for the record, Councilman Johnson wanted to discuss this, but I thought it was premature because I had at least 2 council members that were going to be on this dais after November. So the timing was impeccable that we were still refreshed with this, but I just wanted to put that on the record because Councilman Johnson was going down this range, and I probably wanted a new council to take this on because this is important for the city's future. So I just wanted to add that to give that to Councilman Johnson. Right now, I've got a motion by Councilman Langevin, seconded by Councilman Johnson. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. We are now on council reports, Councilman Langevin.
Well, first off, thank you all for that 5-0. That's huge. So, and I'm sure each and every one of our point in all 5 of our lives, we probably were told that fluoride is good for us, and all of us just took evidence and science, and we made, I think, a good informed decision. I do want to say, apologize to Councilman Johnson. I did not know that he had brought that up earlier, so I want to make sure he also gets any kudos that he deserves for bringing this up. I didn't mean to steal any of his thunder, but with that, I'm going to go ahead and yield my council report. I have nothing else to add.
Councilman Hammer.
First thing, I'm going to start off by the appointment of Patrick McNally to the Space Coast TPO Citizens Advisory Board. I would like to say that I ran my campaign against Patrick, and I got to meet him as a person and not only as a leader here in Palm Bay. And I was thoroughly impressed, and I'm really excited to see what you can do as a representative of Palm Bay for our TPO.
Excellent choice, Letty.
Second, I wanted to say the Citizen Budget Advisory Board I was going to discuss tonight. I wanted to work with our city manager with it a little bit more, so I will be bringing it back next meeting.
Okay.
And lastly, I wanted to talk about the abandoned apartment buildings on Pinewood.
Okay.
Is there anything we can do to Right now, it is a danger.
I thought we discussed that before, and
Yeah, we didn't get any.
Staff was going to look into that. Is there anything that can be done? If anything, we need to highlight that again. Okay.
That's something that.
Yeah. We do need to do, but I don't know what our power.
Yeah, that's what
so
I'm
we
seeing
did-
right now. I know we can't do nothing tonight, but it's my time to bring it up to everybody. And I think that's something that needs to be a discussion. I think it's hazard. Some of the people in the neighborhood can't walk the streets anymore. It's something that we need to act upon if we have the ability to.
Thank you. Councilman Johnson.
Only thing to add, Mayor, I appreciate you highlighting that. I brought it up a few months ago, but all that matters is we got the job done. So, Councilman Lanchman, I appreciate you bringing it up when you did. So as soon as I saw it on the agenda, it was a yes for me. Other than that, I'm excited to continue to work going into 2025, and I appreciate you, City Manager Scott Morgan, and everybody on staff. So let's continue to get the job done. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson. See you next meeting. Deputy Mayor Jaffe.
No comments. No report.
My reports are as follows. First and foremost, I want to have a huge discussion regarding our roads and our Go Roads program. In particular, I believe there's some overwhelmingly shoddy workmanship along the corridors that have recently been made. And I'm not sure if that's an engineering issue or if it was something along the lines of some other compromise. But I'd like for us to dig deep and do a deep dive in that. I can name some streets. I believe Jupiter in the northwest section that was recently done, and it seems just shoddy workmanship. And I want to see if we're still under warranty opportunities there. Secondly, I wanted to commend on Christmas Eve, while we're all waiting for our gifts, right about after midnight, we have a pipe burst, and we had so many employees that were on call, interrupt their Christmas Eve with their families. Superintendent Bob Killen, Marshall Hastings, Candy Baker, James Harden, the IT staff, Jim, and Daniel McDonald. Guys, thank you for what you do for our city. Even on Christmas Eve and Christmas, you guys are out there doing the job. And yes, it was a sacrifice, and they actually finished the job, from what I understand, at about 4 o'clock in the morning. Then thirdly, I should say, I wanted to gauge council in bringing back not meetings at 7 o'clock, but bringing them to at least a 6:30 p.m. start. In other words, I'm asking for an additional 30 minutes to start and give us an opportunity to allow the public to come in. So those are my thoughts. I bring that up on the reports. Of course, if I don't have consensus, I get that, but I'm just looking at, I know 7 o'clock would be too late, but maybe a 6:30 start might help us. So I see no consensus. So I guess I'm still stuck at 1,800 hours. So with that, we're now on administrative and legal reports. Mr. Morgan.
Nothing to report, sir.
Madam Smith.
Yes, sir. Honorable Mayor and members of City Council, pursuant to Section 286.011, subsection 8, Florida statutes, I need to seek your advice concerning the following litigation matter. Mahmoud Hamdan versus City of Palm Bay, case number 05-2022 CA 045505. I have coordinated a time when council is available, Thursday, January 16, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. The meeting should take no more than 30 minutes. Attendees will be Mayor and City Council, Interim City Manager Scott Morgan, City Attorney Patricia Smith, Deputy City Attorney Rodney Edwards, and a certified court reporter. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Hearing that, this meeting's adjourned.
I wasn't too far off. 9:20. I'm getting closer.